that whether till where we have covered in the last session, that is still independence topic, whether you all have gone through the study, through the module, including all the illustrations and examples. And students, again, if you haven't done that, please start reading the module. Please start going through the illustrations, the examples that are discussed. If you want to pass your exams with flying color, you definitely need to read whatever we have done. Okay? So, a very good evening, Dhyanesh, Jyoti, Farha, Harshita, Vasudeva, Chakshu, Jyoti, Taza, Gomathi, Rohit, Shambhavi, Suman. Right? So, before starting with the topics which are left in chapter number 1, let us just quickly give 5 minutes to the topics that we have covered in the last 2 sessions. Okay? So, we started our discussion with understanding the meaning and definition of term auditing. Then we did that what should an auditor satisfy himself in order to ensure that financial statements do not mislead anyone. Okay? We covered objectives of audit in terms of SA 200. What is the name of SA 200? Overall objectives of the independent auditor and the conduct of audit in accordance with standards on auditing. Then we saw scope of audit, and related to this topic only, we covered what aspects to be covered in audit. Very related topics and very simple topics, Hana. Aspects mean whatever you feel like accounting system, internal control systems, procedures, right? Then authenticity, the arithmetical accuracy, validity of transactions, everything will come here. Okay? Types of audit. Then we saw that advantages of audit of financial statements. So who all are the users of the financial statement, the benefits, the advantages will accrue to them. So like shareholders, employees, settlement of trade disputes, settlement of liability for taxes, settlement of accounts in case of partnership firm, right? Wastages and losses, right? Then a very, very important topic, which is what inherent limitations of audit. And again, here, again, a reference of SA 200, right? So an auditor is not expected to, and he cannot reduce audit risk to zero. That is, he obtain reasonable assurance. He cannot obtain absolute assurance. And what is the reason? The inherent limitations of audit. One is nature of financial reporting. Second is nature of audit procedures. Third is timeliness of financial reporting and balance between benefit and cost. And fourth point is other matters that affect the auditor's ability to detect material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, right? Then relationship of auditing with other subjects. This is again a simple topic, but yes, very important. We completed the standard setting process in the last session, whereby we understood about IFAC, International Federation of Accountants, right? We also understood about IAASB, International Auditing and Assurance Standard Boards, and the Indian counterpart, which is what? AASB. ICAI is member of IFAC, right? What are the various engagements? It can be auditing, audit of historical financial information. Second can be review of historical financial information. Then assurance engagements, dealing with subject matters other than the historical financial information. And then agreed upon procedures in the form of related services. So there are standards with respect to all these 4 kinds of services. And with respect to all these 4 kinds of services, there is one standard on quality control. Remember? So a quick recap so that you all are able to recall as to what we have done in the last session. Okay? Statements we have done, that statements issued by ICAI, these are mandatory in nature. Hana? So if these are not either the accounting matters or on the auditing matters, if these are not complied with, the auditor will have to mention in his audit report. Guidance note, as the name suggests, are what? For guiding the members. So these are what? Recommendatory nature, though ordinarily a member follows the recommendation. So if these are not followed either on the accounting matter or the auditing matter, if auditor consider it necessary, he will mention it in his audit report. Qualities of an auditor, I told you that personal qualities and professional qualities को differentiate करके just try to understand this topic. Then we were discussing elements of system of quality control, whereby there are 6 elements. So basically the thing is that since when an audit firm is conducting the audit of a client, it is representing an esteemed profession. It is representing as a member of ICI. So the quality of the work should be maintained. So with respect to that, as per SQC1, the firms should have policies and procedures with respect to 6 points, whereby we have covered the first 2 points, that is leadership responsibilities for quality within the firm. And here in this point, we understood the concept of engagement partner and the responsibility of engagement partner with respect to what? The overall quality of the audit engagement. Then ethical requirements, whereby in the last session we have done about ISBA code, IESBA, if you remember, just a minute. So this is what the International Ethics Standard Board of Accountants, and it has certain fundamental principles of professional ethics, that these 5 ethic moral values should be there, which are integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. And I told you that all these cannot be exercised unless and until auditor is independent, right? And if you remember, then we understood about what is independence. So it is basically a judgment of a person here is the auditor, is not subordinate to the wishes or directions of another person who might have engaged him. We also understood that just by making the rules on independence, such value cannot be deemed to have been pursued, but it should be present in the mind of the auditor, and it should also appear to the third party that the auditor is actually independent. So we discussed 2 concepts, 2 types of independence, that is independence of mind and independence in appearance. So now, if you remember in the last session, I told you that there are certain threats to such independence and then how to safeguard that. So we have now to cover those topics with respect to independence. Okay. So Ramachandra, I'll be taking your doubt once I complete this second point. Okay. So we were discussing what independence. So it says that merely by forming the rules, independence cannot be ensured. Independence is a condition of mind as well as a personal character. So unless and until an auditor feels that yes, he should be independent, unless and until he has a state of mind whereby his influence is not affected by the persons who have appointed him, and whereby he is able to act with integrity, that is he's straightforward and honest, objectivity, that is he's not biased, and professional skepticism. In the last session, I told you professional skepticism, as of now, try to understand that it means that you are of questioning mind. When you get a document, you start questioning it. Okay? So, but for exercising integrity, objectivity, professional skepticism, there should be independence of mind. Now, what is meant by independence in appearance? So it basically says that to a third party, the auditor should appear to be independent. The auditor should avoid the fact and circumstances that are so significant that a third party would reasonably conclude that an auditor's integrity, objectivity, and professional skepticism had been compromised. The third party should not feel कि भाई देखो इसका तो integrity, objectivity, या professional skepticism है ही नहीं. Okay? I gave you example that on one hand, the auditor is conducting the audit of an organization. On the other hand, the auditor is taking unnecessary, undue gifts like a package to a world tour, and that package has been organized by the client. So to a third party, it will definitely appear that auditor is not independent. Clear? So Jyoti, I'm trying to use Hindi, but yes, I'll have to use English again, and I'll try to mix both the languages. Okay? So I hope so far it is clear. Quickly give me a thumbs up whether we can proceed further with the topic threats to independence. So quickly let me know whether you have understood the concept so far? So the next topic is what? Threats to independence. So, Yatiraj, with respect to your doubt, see, he is saying that यहाँ पे we are saying this is what appearance. यहाँ पे we are saying that avoidance of facts should be there. So I'll clear your doubt here only, Hana. So what kind of facts? So he should not take the gifts, Hana. And in the threats to independence, now we will see one threat which is advocacy threat, Hana. Jahan par auditor is also fighting any case of the client against a third party. So auditor should not to do that. Avoidance of the fact, Hana. Auditor क्लाइंट के से एक्सपेंसिव गिफ्ट्स ना एक्सेप्ट करें, ऑडिटर क्लाइंट के लिए कोई केस ना लड़े, ठीक है, और वो कैसे अभी हम देखेंगे थ्रेट्स टू इंडिपेंडेंस में, ठीक है यतिराज? सी दीपांशु, दैट विल बी अ डिफरेंट थिंग ना, बट आई एम सेइंग कि पैकेज है, वर्ल्ड टूर का है या अननेसेसरी गिफ्ट्स हैं, है ना? So that should not be accepted. Now threats to independence. Now auditor has been warned that see, independence should be in mind and independence should be in appearance, ठीक है? But auditor, you will come across a number of situations whereby there will be what? Threats to independence. So under these situations, the independence of an auditor is in jeopardy, that is, it is in danger, है ना? So these threats are self-interest threat, self-review threat, advocacy threat, familiarity threat, and intimidation threat. We will understand all these threats one by one, and then what are the safeguards. So self-interest threat. So as the name suggests, there will be threat to independence when the auditor has a self-interest in the client organization. Let's say auditor is having any financial interest in the client organization. Auditor has purchased a number of shares of the client organization. So will independence be there? No, there will be threat to independence. Same way, if auditor has given or taken any loan or guarantee to or from the client organization, again, self-interest threat. That is, the self-interest of the auditor is now involved with the client organization. So how can we consider him as what? Independent. Another example can be undue dependence upon the fees from the clients. Let's say the auditor is earning a total fees from the audit of, let's say, from all the clients, 1 crore rupees. Okay? Out of that, let's say 60%, 60 lakhs has been paid by one client. So it is a huge amount, na? So self-interest is involved, na? Right? So self-interest threat, as the name suggests, that the interest of the client is involved, is there in the interest of the auditor is there in the client organization. If such is a situation, then it poses a threat to independence of the auditor. Okay, clear? Then the second is what? Self-review threat, as the name suggests. So if I ask you to check your own papers, how much marks are you going to give? More than 90, right? So self-review threat. So if the auditor is reviewing the work which has been done by himself, so in that case also there is threat to independence, right? For let's say any of the member of the audit team was previously in a senior position in the management of the company, so let's say ABC and Associates is the auditor of X Limited, okay? And suppose CAA and his team has gone to conduct the audit. Now CAA was earlier the director of X Limited. So self-review threat now. CAA will have to review his own work, which he did in the capacity as a director in that company. तो सेल्फ रिव्यू थ्रेट, ठीक है. सेम पे, if let's say, let me just take you through the module. So self review threats. Okay, we will do one thing. We will read both the threats, self-interested and self-review threats. So as the name suggests, self-review threats which occur when an auditing firm, its partner or associate could benefit from a financial interest in an audit client. Example, direct financial interest or materially significant indirect financial interest in a client, loan or guarantee to or from the concerned client, undue dependence on the client's fees and hence concerns about losing the engagement, close business relationship with an audit client. Like in case of an audit firm unduly relies on fees from a client, it may result in a threat of self-interest of auditor and he may not work objectively for the fear of losing the client. I hope now after reading the discussion on self-interest threat, it is clear. ठीक है. So many of you are saying we will give 100 marks. ठीक है. So self-review threats which occur during a review of any judgment or conclusion reached in a previous audit or non-audit engagement. Student, in chapter number 10, we will be studying section 144, whereby of the Companies Act 2013, whereby you will see that there are a number of services which an auditor cannot render, which an auditor is prohibited to render to the client. Like if a chartered accountant firm is an auditor of that company, then that firm should not be involved in account keeping, bookkeeping. Okay? In giving the consultancy, advisory services, investment banking services to the same client. Why? Because self-review threat aa jata hai wahan par. Okay? So, for example, these services include management services, internal audit, investment advisory services, design and implementation of information technology. Okay? Or when a member of the audit team was previously a director or senior employee of the client. I gave you this example na, कि पहले जो CAA था, he was the director of this company. ठीक है? Or when an auditor having recently been the director of the company. So, and the third is, second one is when auditor performs services that themselves are subject matter of audit. अपना ही paper check करोगे तो full marks दोगे ना? ठीक है? Okay, done. So self-review threat and self-interest threat. Now advocacy threat. What is meant by advocacy? Quickly send in your replies. And Yatiraj, now your doubt will get more clear here. Advocacy. Advocacy is supporting someone. है ना? Advocacy वैसे क्या होता है? Supporting. So, when an auditor becomes the client's advocate in any litigation, so let's say any litigation is going against the company with respect to some income tax matters, and the auditor has become the advocate of the client with respect to such matter. Now, देखो, it will appear to a third party ना कि वैसे तो he is conducting the audit and either he is supporting the client. है ना? तो independence of in appearance is not here now. So when Yatiraj was asking me, ma'am, what facts to be avoided? So here the auditor should avoid becoming the client's advocate. Okay? So advocacy threats which occur when the auditor promotes or is perceived to promote a client's opinion to a point where people may believe that objectivity is getting compromised. तो मतलब इंडिपेंडेंस इन अपीयरेंस की बात हो रही है ना, तो ऑडिटर माइट से कि नहीं मुझे पता है कि ऑडिट तो इंडिपेंडेंटली करना है, इट इज इन माय माइंड, बट इन अपीयरेंस तो इट इज इन डेंजर ना. Example, when auditor deals with shares or securities of the audited company. So when auditor, let's say auditor is helping the client organization in issue of the shares, he is promoting the shares or securities of the audited company, or becomes the client advocate if in litigation or third party dispute. So this should not happen. Okay? So remember that auditor has not only to be independent but also appear to be acting so. So Yatiraj, the auditor needs to avoid such facts. That is, he should avoid such situations. Clear? So we have done three kinds of threats, that is self-interest threats, self-review threats, and advocacy threat. Now the next one is what? Familiarity threat. Familiarity threat. Okay? So when the client and the audit firm, they have been familiar for a number of years such that they become too sympathetic. That is, the auditor becomes too sympathetic to the client's interest. ऐसा होता है ना, आप 10 सालों से किसी को जानते हो, for the last 10 years you're working with someone, you are not in a position to tell them that you are wrong. है ना? तो independence in mind is in danger. Okay? So this can occur when, in many ways, close relative of the audit team working in a senior position of the client. So let's say X Limited is there, Hana. ABC and Associates are the auditor. CAA and his team are going to conduct the audit. Now, Mrs. A is the director of X Limited. So close relative. So familiarity threat. So familiarity with respect to the time span and familiarity with respect to the persons. है ना? तो देखो आप यहाँ पर if Mrs. A. So if Mrs. A is a director of X Limited, now there is a danger on there is a threat on the independence of CAA, who is the engagement partner in this case. Okay? Former partner of the audit firm being a director or senior employee of the client. Now, let's say, so ABC and earlier Mr. D was also the director. Now he is not the partner in this firm. Earlier he was the partner, and now he has become a director here with X Limited. Now when A, B, C and Associates will go and to conduct the audit, now he was a partner earlier now. So again, familiarity threat. Long association between specific auditors and their specific client counterparts, acceptance of gifts and hospitality from the client company. And students, in order to avoid this threat, you will read in your Companies Act chapter number 10, section 139, subsection 2, that there is a concept of rotation of auditor. कि एक audit firm को इतना ही time period के लिए appoint कर सकते हैं, उसके बाद there need to be a cooling period of 5 years, कि 5 years का break लेना ही पड़ेगा. Same way with respect to an individual proprietorship firm. ठीक है? So this we will be discussing in chapter number 10. But I hope you are able to थोड़ा सा समझ आ रहा है कि कैसे इसको safeguard भी कर सकते हैं, familiarity threat. And the last threat is intimidation threat. Quickly tell me, what do you understand by the term intimidation? Mohammed Bohra, Mr. Bohra, your doubt is not clear. Please send it again. So, Mr. Kojama, it will depend on whether the financial statements pertaining to the time period when he was the director, whether these are been reviewed or not. See, Dipanshu, there can always be some exceptions to this, but what is this? This is a general standards. क्या होता है कि general set format है, set policies and procedures है that the auditor needs to follow, है ना? Yes. So intimidation is to scare someone. किसी को डराना धमकाना, है ना? So when the client is intimidating the auditor, that if you give this opinion, or if you ask me more audit evidence, I will reduce your fees. I will replace you. है ना? I'll appoint someone else. Or the auditor has been threatened with certain litigation. So that is called intimidation threat. So intimidation threat, which occurs when auditors are deterred. Deterred, what is meant by deterred? Discouraged from acting objectively with the adequate degree of professional skepticism. Basically, these could happen because of threat of replacement over disagreement. अगर आपने हमारी ये बात नहीं मानी, we will replace you. ठीक है? Disagreement with the application of accounting policies, or pressure to disproportionately reduce the work in response to reduce audit fees. कि फिर ठीक है, I'll reduce your work. or been threatened with litigation. Such threats attempt to intimidate, मतलब डराना धमकाना auditor, to defer, मतलब to discourage them from acting objectively. ठीक है, ठीक है. So Ayush is saying, मैम advocacy threat दोबारा समझा दो. So I'll do that. देखो advocate कौन होता है? जो अपने client को support करता है ना? Advocate. Okay. So if let's say, let's try to understand this with the help of an example. So let's say again, ABC and Associates are the statutory auditors of X Limited, and there is a litigation of income tax that is pending before ITAT, Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. Okay. Now, CA is the engagement partner. Here, he is conducting the audit. Now, if he is representing his client X Limited before ITAT in this case, advocacy threat. So advocate वैसे क्या होता है? Who is supporting someone. So if you are supporting someone on one hand in any litigation, or if you are promoting the shares or securities of a client, so and on the other hand you are also the auditor, so now there is threat to independence. To a third party it will appear कि भाई he is supporting this client. In the court, he is promoting, he is championing for his client, he is backing up his client. So on the other hand, when he is conducting the audit, how will be he in a position to be unbiased? Hana? So advocacy threat. Clear? Yes, Ramachandra, you are absolutely clear. So here, in case the auditor is having any shares, and even if his relative is having any share, he is disqualified to be appointed as the auditor of that client. Okay? And if any of the partners is also having the shares, okay? Relatively, there are certain exceptions that are given. And this again will be done in detail in chapter number 10. Okay? Oh, ma'am, this can happen. That company which you brought up. See, Jalaj Bihani, see, if the auditor has been removed, है before the expiry of his term, मतलब if he was appointed, let's say for 5 years, है and he's been removed before the expiry of the term, then there are certain strict provisions under under the Companies Act, which you will be studying in detail in chapter number 10, that अगर company को ऐसे remove करना है तो ये सब करना पड़ेगा, है ना? So it is not that easy. ठीक है? So whose doubt was it? Jalaj, is it clear? Chapter 10 में हम detail में ये discuss करेंगे. Yes, Sudhanshu, you are correct. See, an auditor himself or his partner cannot hold any security in the client organization. ठीक है? Any security. Relative के लिए कुछ exception है जो अभी I am not telling you because फिर confusion हो जाएगा. Chapter 10 में detail में पढ़ेंगे. Mr. Joshi, I hope it is clear. Yes, Sarthak, you are correct. Self-review, Priyanka, self-review means that you are reviewing your own work. I told you that if I ask you to check your own paper, तो mistake निकालना मुश्किल हो जाएगा ना. Same way self-review. अगर audit team में से कोई जो auditor है, let's say CAA, he was earlier in a senior position of the client organization X Limited. तो पहले उन्होंने बहुत जगह signatures किए हुए हैं financial statements पे. तो अब उसमें mistake निकालना मुश्किल हो जाएगा ना, misstatement निकालना in a simple language, है ना? Self review threats. अगर auditor ही, for example ABC and Associates in our case, X Limited को bookkeeping भी दे रहा है services, तो bookkeeping भी ABC and Associates ने की, audit भी ABC and Associates कर रहा है, तो independence थोड़ी ना होएगा. That is why there is a section 144. Again, we will do that in detail in chapter number 10, whereby you will study कि कुछ services हैं which the auditor is prohibited from rendering it to the client if they are the auditor of that company. employee cannot be an auditor. I told you, Pranav, in the very first session. Independence का मतलब ही क्या है कि your judgment should not be subordinate to the wishes of the other. तो वो अगर employee है, senior management में से कोई है, कोई भी है, वो उसको independence नहीं रहेगा if he is the employee of that organization. ठीक है? So Chakshu is saying, ma'am, clear. Quickly send in your query. Kanhaiya, please send in your query again. अभी मुझे दिखी नहीं है आपकी कोई query. ठीक है? So I hope it is clear. ठीक है. Now there are certain safeguards to such threats to independence. बहुत सिंपल है. Safeguards क्या है? देखो, सबसे पहले तो हम क्या कहते हैं? Auditor, listen. Independence should be of mind and his appearance. आप बोलोगे ये तो पता ही है. हाँ, तो ठीक है, यही है. For the public to have confidence in quality of audit, it is essential for the auditors to be, that is, in mind and to appear to be independent. ठीक है, क्यों? Because unless and until independence होएगा, integrity, objectivity, professional skepticism apply नहीं हो सकता. So second point says, in the case of audit, the key fundamental principles are integrity, objectivity, and professional skepticism, which necessarily require the auditor to be independent. ये तो revision ही है kind of, है ना? ये हमने किया दो all these points. Now it says that before taking any work, है ना? कोई भी audit engagement लेने से पहले the auditor should conscientiously, that is, ईमानदारी से, he should consider whether it involves threat to independence, है ना? कोई भी work लेने से, so in our example, ABC and Associates के पास work आया है, X Limited का, तो वो work लेने से पहले ABC and Associates will consider ईमानदारी से, conscientiously मतलब ईमानदारी से, that whether there will be threat to independence, है ना? ऐसा तो नहीं है कि एथिकल रिक्वायरमेंट मीट नहीं हो रहा है, ऑब्जेक्टिविटी नहीं हो पाएगा, वी आर नॉट इंडिपेंडेंट, ऐसे तो नहीं है किसी ने शेयर्स होल्ड किए हुए हैं, है ना? तो दे विल कंसीडर वेदर इट इन्वॉल्व्स द थ्रेट्स टू इंडिपेंडेंस. दिस इज द थर्ड पॉइंट. द फोर्थ पॉइंट सेज दैट इफ देयर आर थ्रेट्स, ऑडिटर शुड डिजिस्ट फ्रॉम द टास्क, रिफ्रेन, मतलब वो वाला काम नहीं करना चाहिए. एंड अगर करना भी है तो ऑडिटर शुड प्लेस सेफगार्ड्स दैट एलिमिनेट देम. फॉर एग्जांपल, if the partner, any of the partner is holding the shares, then sell off such shares. ठीक है? If any of the partner is holding any of the shares of that company, so before taking the, मतलब you need to sell that shares on the date of the appointment. The auditor must not to be holding any of the shares. ठीक है? And lastly, it says that if it is not possible to implement adequate safeguards, then do not accept that work. है ना? पहले हमने क्या बोला कि ऑडिटर सुनो, इंडिपेंडेंस इन माइंड भी चाहिए, इन अपीयरेंस भी चाहिए. ऑडिटर ने पूछा क्यों, तो सेकंड पॉइंट में हमने बोला कि भाई इंटेग्रिटी, ऑब्जेक्टिविटी, प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिसिज्म तब तक नहीं आएगा जब तक आप इंडिपेंडेंट हो. ऑडिटर का ओके, तो अब क्या करना है? सो बिफोर टेकिंग एनी वर्क, the auditor needs to conscientiously consider whether it involves threat to his independence. अगर है तो desist, that is refrain, कि मत करो वो काम, और अगर करना ही है तो place safeguards to eliminate them. If you are unable to fully implement credible and adequate safeguards, ठीक है, तो you must not accept the work. ठीक है, you must not accept the work. Read this example. Just give a quick read to this example. Mr. S and Mr. W. कंपनी छोटी है या बड़ी है, ऐसा कुछ डिस्कशन मैंने किया है? बताओ. Even a 1 rupee share cannot be held by the auditor. ठीक है, अब क्लियर है आदर्श? See, Neha, it depends upon the firm's, audit firm's internal policies and procedures. Yes, there are a number of services which are mentioned in section 144 of the Companies Act 2013, whereby list is given that all these services cannot be rendered by an auditor. So if a person is a chartered accountant is an auditor, so he's prohibited from rendering various services. Like I told you, investment banking, advisory services, Hana, then account keeping, any services relating to internal control, all that services. सो अनामिका, इट इज नॉट एट ऑल अनफेयर, है ना, ऑडिटर के लिए अनफेयर थोड़ी ना अगर हम कह रहे हैं कि डू नॉट होल्ड शेयर्स. इंडिपेंडेंस इज very necessary. It is must when an auditor is conducting an audit. Audit का first word ही क्या है? An independent examination, है ना. और भी तो कंपनीज हैं, उनके शेयर्स परचेज कर लो. So Goma, with respect to your doubt, again, independence in my of mind and in appearance. Third party को भी लगना चाहिए that auditor is independent. ठीक है? Is it clear? ठीक है. So the next topic that we are going to discuss is what? Questioning mind, है ना. And देखो मैंने इसको कैसे आपको ड्रॉ करके दिखाया है. Professional skepticism, है ना. So basically, questioning mind. The auditor should exercise professional skepticism when he is performing and planning the audit. Throughout the audit process, the auditor needs to exercise professional skepticism, है ना. So skepticism का क्या मतलब होता है? Skepticism is doubt as to the truth of something, है ना. तो मतलब जैसे ही कोई डॉक्यूमेंट सामने आया, क्वेश्चन मार्क लग जाना चाहिए ऑडिटर, है ना. सो इट इंक्लूड्स एन एटीट्यूड दैट इंक्लूड्स क्वेश्चनिंग माइंड. ये ड्रॉ नहीं करके आना है, क्वेश्चनिंग माइंड. ठीक है, ठीक है. Being alert to conditions which may indicate possible misstatement whether due to error or fraud and critical assessment of audit evidence. ठीक है, तो ये तीनों बातें समझते हैं. प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिसिज्म, है ना. आप बहुत जगह पढ़ोगे एंड आप बहुत जगह आंसर्स में लिखोगे that the auditor needs to exercise professional skepticism throughout the conduct of audit, है ना. इसका क्या मतलब है? इसका मतलब ये है कि अगर मुझे कोई ये एविडेंस मिला, लेट्स से कोई डॉक्यूमेंट मिला, तो आई शुड नॉट जस्ट कीप इट इन माय फाइल लाइक दैट विदाउट गोइंग थ्रू इट. I should go through that document. I should ask a number of questions about that document to the client. For example, if the client organization has purchased a new building during the year, तो ये नहीं है कि ठीक है, अच्छा आपने बिल्डिंग परचेज किया, मुझे पेपर्स दे दो, I'll keep it in my file. नहीं. If I am exercising professional skepticism, I ask the management, अच्छा मैनेजमेंट बिल्डिंग परचेज की है, what is the purpose, है ना. कितने अमाउंट में परचेज की है, कैसे परचेज की है, कौन बैठता है, कहाँ है वो बिल्डिंग. A number of questions should come in my mind if I'm applying professional skepticism. Last year, say, let's say traveling expense company के last year was 10,000. ठीक है, this year these traveling expense has increased to let's say 1.5 lakhs. So I should not accept this like that only. I should apply professional skepticism. Why there has been an increase of such a drastic increase in traveling expenses, है ना. तो then only I'll be able to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So questioning mind तो है, and being alert to conditions which may indicate possible misstatement whether due to fraud or error. तो I'm alert to this situation ना, है ना. ऐसे तो नहीं है ना कि बस ये सामने आया, मैंने सपोर्टिंग डॉक्यूमेंट चेक किया, आई केप्ट दैट इन माय फाइल. नहीं, आई एम अलर्ट टू दिस सिचुएशन. All of a sudden there has been an increase in related party transaction during the years. Last time, let's say related party transaction जो थी, that is the transactions with the related party, debtors creditors जो relatives में थे, let's say 10 lakhs के थे. This year suddenly 1 CR की हो गई है value. So I'm alert to the condition now which may indicate possible misstatement whether due to error or fraud and critical assessment of audit evidence. Audit evidence मिला तो उसको फाइल में ऐसे नहीं रख लिया. I am critically assessing it, है ना. I am actually inspecting it. I am asking a number of questions to the management, to the client organization कि बताओ भाई ऐसा क्यों है. ठीक है. सो दिस इज व्हाट प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिसिज्म. अभी डिटेल में और डिस्कस करेंगे. एंड प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिसिज्म कब कब अप्लाई करते हैं? व्हाइल प्लानिंग एंड परफॉर्मिंग द ऑडिट, है ना. प्लानिंग के टाइम पे भी अगर आपने व्हेन यू आर प्लानिंग यू कम अक्रॉस दिस डेटा दैट ठीक है रिलेटेड पार्टी में ना देयर हैज बीन इंक्रीज, तो प्लान अकॉर्डिंगली करोगे ना कि सिंस देयर हैज बीन अ ड्रास्टिक इंक्रीज इन द रिलेटेड पार्टी ट्रांजैक्शन ड्यूरिंग द ईयर, आई एम गोइंग टू व्हाट, आई एम गोइंग टू परफॉर्म more audit procedures with respect to that and performing also. ठीक है. So while planning and performing the audit, the auditor needs to exercise what? Professional skepticism. Skepticism क्या होता है? बोलते हैं ना, आई एम skeptical about this, मतलब आई एम doubtful. तो ऑडिटर को एक एक डॉक्यूमेंट को, एक एक ट्रांजैक्शन को डाउट करना है. डाउट करना है मतलब ही नीड्स टू आस्क क्वेश्चंस. अच्छा, ये डेप्रिसिएशन अमाउंट है, ये कैसे आया, ये क्यों आया, कौन कौन से प्लांट एंड मशीनरी पे आया. सो ही नीड टू अप्लाई व्हाट? प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिसिज्म. स्केप्टिसिज्म क्या होता है? डाउट. जब डाउट आता है तो आप क्वेश्चन पूछते हो ना. दैट इज वाई ये क्या बोलते हैं इसको? दैट इंक्लूड्स क्वेश्चनिंग माइंड. सिर्फ ऐसे ही नहीं कि आर्टिकल क्लर्क को एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर ने बोला जाओ डॉक्यूमेंट्स ले आओ, ला के फाइल में रख दे. नहीं, यू शुड अप्लाई व्हाट? प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिसिज्म. अच्छा, ये डॉक्यूमेंट मिला है, ये ही क्यों मिला है, इसमें क्या लिखा है. ठीक है. सो ऑडिटर नीड्स टू अप्लाई प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिसिज्म थ्रू आउट वाइल प्लानिंग एंड परफॉर्मिंग द ऑडिट. लेट अस हैव अ लुक एट इट इन द मॉड्यूल. तो Diksha, I'll explain this again in English. So, professional skepticism refers to an attitude that includes questioning mind, being alert to conditions which may indicate possible misstatement due to error or fraud, and a critical assessment of audit evidence. हमेशा questioning mind है, कुछ ना कुछ पूछ रहे हैं. And being alert to conditions which may indicate possible misstatement due to error and fraud, and critical assessment of audit evidence. So I gave you example that if I get an audit evidence, so I'll not just keep it in my file like that. I'll go through it. I'll ask a number of questions to the organization, to the management, that tell me what is this document all about. If let's say a building has been purchased, why the building has been purchased, where is it, at what price it was purchased, from whom it was purchased. So I'm asking a number of questions. ठीक है. ठीक है. So auditor shall plan and perform an audit with professional skepticism, recognize the circumstances that may exist that cause the financial statement to be materially misstated. For example, you may get a direct question in your exam that gives some examples where the auditor needs to be alert and apply professional skepticism. For example, audit evidence that contradicts other audit evidence. ठीक है. For example, the bank statement says that the amount that has been received from the debtor is 4 lakh. However, the confirmation from the debtor says that the amount is 5 lakhs. Now, there is what? Audit evidence that contradicts the other audit evidence obtained. There is a difference between the two audit evidence. Clear? So now, do not just ignore it कि गलती हो गई होगी. नहीं. Be alert. ठीक है. This is a condition that is indicating possible misstatement. That misstatement might be there, whether due to fraud or error. It might be possible now that debtor had by mistake written 5 lakhs instead of 4 lakhs, है ना? Or error. Debtor has some intentions of fraud, or the client and the debtor, they are colluding to commit any fraud. ठीक है. Information that brings into question the reliability of documents and responses to inquiries to be used as audit evidence. For example, responses to inquiry. Inquiry is what? When you ask the management. For example, you ask the management tell us whether apart from these 5 litigations, are there any other litigation going against the company? The management responses to that response that there is no other litigation. However, when you obtain information from the legal department of the client, you find that there are 6 litigation. Now, information from the legal department that brings into question the reliability of responses to inquiry. You inquired the management said 5 hai. When you obtained the information from the legal department, you find 6 hai. ठीक है. Then conditions that may indicate possible fraud. Example, you are asking the management for information, but the management is saying that information is not available. You are asking the management that please let me check, let me verify, let me attend your inventory verification. Management is saying that is not possible. So conditions that may indicate possible fraud. ठीक है. Circumstances that suggest the need for audit procedure in addition to those required by essays. So students, if you remember, I told you that with respect to essay 500 series that pertain to what, how to obtain audit evidence. So certain audit procedures are mentioned there, that auditor, if you want to obtain audit evidence with respect to, let's say, inventory, follow the procedures mentioned in essay 501. Now, even after applying those procedure, auditor is not able to obtain audit evidence. He has to apply certain other procedures also. So that means those standard procedures say auditor is not able to obtain audit evidence. So that the auditor needs to be alert. Why is this happening? So he will apply what? Professional skepticism. And what are the benefits if auditor is applying professional skepticism throughout the audit? What are the benefits? It will reduce the risk of overlooking unusual circumstances. For example, the traveling wala example we discussed, that from 10,000 this year it is 1.5 lakhs. So if auditor is not applying professional skepticism, he might just ask the management, ki management, theek hai, give me all the documents, and he'll keep that in his file. But if he's applying professional skepticism, he will not overlook this unusual circumstance. He will go in detail. He will ask a number of questions. So chances are reduced that the risk of overlooking unusual circumstances. Okay? Overgeneralizing when drawing conclusions from audit observations. For example, let's say the 60% of the travel of the expenses are the auditor has checked, and he finds that they are appropriately shown in the books of accounts. Now we may overgeneralize it, that if 60% are correct, 100% are also correct, if he's not applying professional skepticism. So overgeneralizing when drawing conclusion from audit observation. If he's questioning each and everything, chances are there that there will be reduced risk of overgeneralizing when drawing conclusions from audit observation. And last but not the least, using inappropriate assumption in determining the NT of audit procedures in evaluating the results thereof. NT is what? Nature, timing, and extent of audit procedure. So if auditor is applying professional skepticism, he is in a position to determine the nature, the time, and the extent of audit procedures that he needs to perform in an effective manner. Because he have questioned each and everything. He has analyzed each and everything. He has done the critical assessment of all the audit evidence. So I can say these are what the benefits of what? The applying professional skepticism. Now let me just ask you one doubt, one query, that does it mean that the auditor needs to enter the client organization with a question mark on his head, there, meaning thereby that should he doubt each and every document that he come across? Should he doubt? Should he just keep on asking the question from the management? See, professional skepticism basically says that auditor be alert to conditions, have a critical assessment of the audit evidence. So first of all, it says that auditor may accept the records as genuine. अब सीधा ही थोड़ी ना ये बोलेंगे कि ये तो गलत ही है document, question ही है मेरे mind पे तो all the time. No. So auditor is, he may accept the records, the documents as genuine, unless there is something to the contrary, unless there is certain doubt. And if there is a doubt, perform further audit procedures and then apply professional skepticism. अगर कोई doubt है तो और audit procedures करो ना, मतलब उसको ऐसे ही accept मत कर लो. This is the concept. This is what professional skepticism wants to say. That questioning mind होना है. आपको alert to the conditions that may indicate possible misstatement. See, the term possible here is very important ना, because possibility है ना, doubt है ना, confirm थोड़ी ना है. Possible misstatement that may occur due to fraud and error, and critical assessment of what? Audit evidence. ठीक है? So ये थोड़ी ना है कि सच में ही जब क्लाइंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में एंटर किया तो ऐसे जाना है, ऐसे नहीं जाना है. बट इट बेसिकली सेज दैट यू नीड टू बी अलर्ट. है ना? वैसे तो डॉक्यूमेंट्स को यू कैन एक्सेप्ट देम एज जेन्युइन, बट एनीथिंग इफ यू फाइंड टू द कॉन्ट्ररी, है ना, then you need to further investigate, you need to further perform the audit procedures. ठीक है? यस, शक्की दिमाग तो सार्थक इज सेम। ठीक है, ठीक है। सो यूजिंग इनएप्रोप्रिएट, whose doubt is this? आयुष। यूजिंग इनएप्रोप्रिएट assumption, देखो अगर आप इफ यू विल नॉट अप्लाई प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिसिज्म, है ना, यू मे ओवर जनरलाइज द थिंग्स, यू मे नॉट चेक the rest of the 40% of the expenses in detail, है ना। So if professional skepticism is applied कि भाई इसमें डाउट हो सकता है, ठीक है, then the chances are there, then the risk is reduced, which is that the auditor may make any inappropriate assumption for determining the nature, timing, extent of audit procedure. देखो auditor को determine करना पड़ता है ना, auditor needs to determine that what audit procedures he needs to perform, at what time he needs to perform, and till to what extent he needs to perform, कितना checking करना है, ठीक है। सो अगर प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिसिज्म अप्लाई किया होगा तो तभी तो एप्रोप्रिएट अजम्पशन आप ले सकते हो ना, कि ये ठीक है, यहाँ पर कम भी काम चल जाएगा, इसमें डाउट हो सकता है, यहाँ पर ज्यादा काम करना पड़ेगा। क्लियर आयुष? ठीक है। मिस्टर वोहरा, योर डाउट इज नॉट क्लियर, बट जितना समझ आ रहा है तो आर्टिकल्स डू गो टू कंडक्ट द ऑडिट ऑफ द क्लाइंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन। हाँ, वो सिग्नेचर्स नहीं करते हैं, बट यस वो ऑडिट तो करते ही हैं। दे आर अ टीम ऑफ द, they are the team, they are the part of the audit team. ठीक है, is it clear? Quickly send in your replies that independence का जो हमने threat to independence किया, safeguards किया, and this topic of professional skepticism, whether it is clear or not. ठीक है। So देखो, where were we? We were discussing these elements of a system of quality control. System of quality control क्यों करना है? I'm repeating it again and again. भाई audit कर रहे हो तो quality तो maintain करनी है ना। So we have done this leadership responsibilities for quality within the firm, whereby we understood the concept of engagement partner, his actions and his appropriate messages should emphasize the importance of following to audit quality. Remember, we have done that. Ethical requirement में what all we did the ISBA code, 5 fundamental principles, independence किया, then independence of mind किया and appearance किया, along with that हमने threats किए and हमने safeguards किए, ठीक है। then and हमने अभी एक और टॉपिक भी तो किया, क्या किया? प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिसिज्म, ठीक है। now we are doing this third point, which is what? acceptance, continuance of client relationship and specific engagements, ठीक है। Harini, please send in your doubt again, Hana, because earlier when you have sent your doubt now, it was coming in some signs, like English was not mentioned here. So the next point is what? So in order to maintain in the system of the quality control of a firm should have policies and procedures with respect to acceptance and continuance of client relationship and audit engagement. Acceptance and continuance. तो acceptance क्या है? जहां पर you are conducting the audit for the first time, तो उसको accept करें या ना करें। Continuance का क्या मतलब है? When you were already the auditor last year and whether to continue the audit this year. So acceptance and continuance of client relationship, whether the audit firm, the relationship with the client that needs to be accepted in case of first audit and continued in case of the, in case you were the auditor last year also, and the audit engagements, ठीक है। Now see quality of the engagement, the work, it depends upon various factors, which is covered in this topic, that is acceptance and continuance of client relationship. So this point says that the engagement partner, Hana, CAA in our example, so engagement partner should be satisfied that appropriate procedures regarding the acceptance and continuance of client relationships have been undertaken. Appropriate procedures perform हो गए हैं. ऐसा किसके लिए बोला गया? एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर के लिए. उसके लिए फॉर दैट as per standard on quality control 1, the audit firm needs to obtain certain information. जो इंफॉर्मेशन कौन यूज करेगा? एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर. ठीक है. एंड ये इंफॉर्मेशन कब ऑब्टेन करनी है? बिफोर एक्सेप्टिंग द क्लाइंट रिलेशनशिप, है ना. एक्सेप्ट करने के बाद थोड़ी ना देखोगे कि करना है या नहीं. Before accepting the client relationship, there is a responsibility on the firm to obtain certain information. What information? Such information will assist the engagement partner to determine whether the decisions regarding acceptance and continuance of client relationship are appropriate or not. है ना. तो first point में तो we said that it is the responsibility of the engagement partner to be satisfied that whether appropriate procedures जो होने चाहिए थे in order to consider whether to accept or continue with this client or not, वो हुए हैं या नहीं. उसके लिए there is a responsibility on the firm to obtain the information before accepting the engagement. ठीक है. Now what all information, है ना, क्या information लेना है? अब just try to think logically. Suppose you are the audit firm ABC and Associates and there is a client, है ना, and last year you know that this client did not provide all the information to you. ठीक है. And you know that the owners of this client, they are not honest. They are not straightforward. They all the time in the last year audit, they were hiding facts from you. They were not cooperating. Tell me whether you as an engagement partner, whether you will insist on continuing such client relationship. Yes or no? Continue करोगे या नहीं? So I'll try to use both English and Hindi, Jyoti, for your doubt. So बताओ, अगर आपको पता है कि लास्ट ईयर क्लाइंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने बिल्कुल कोऑपरेट नहीं किया, मैनेजमेंट बिल्कुल ऑनेस्ट नहीं था, मैनेजमेंट ने इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोवाइड नहीं किया, अगर आप एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर हो, आप कंटिन्यू करना चाहोगे इस क्लाइंट के साथ? सो द आंसर इज नो, है ना. सेम वे last year when you conducted the audit, or let's say this is the first time when you are going to conduct the audit, ठीक है, and you know that the software that the company is using is a highly complicated software and you accounting software which is highly complicated, and you and your team, you are not competent to handle that software, let's say. So will you accept such engagement? You do not have the team and resources to conduct that audit. तो आप करोगे accept? So the answer is what? No. है ना. So what we have seen that SQC1 has said that the firm, audit firm, needs to obtain certain information before accepting the client relationship. Why? Because it will assist the engagement partner in order to determine whether appropriate decisions have been taken or not with respect to continuance and acceptance of client relationship. ठीक है. What are these information? Integrity of owners, key management and those charged with governance. है ना. तो बिफोर एक्सेप्टिंग द एंगेजमेंट आपको पता होना चाहिए ना वेदर द टीम जो अवेलेबल है, वेदर दैट इज कम्पिटेंट, टाइम एंड रिसोर्सेज अवेलेबल है या नहीं. ठीक है. वेदर द फर्म एंड एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर कैन कंप्लाई विद रेलेवेंट एथिकल रिक्वायरमेंट्स. ऐसा तो नहीं है दैट द पार्टनर इज हिमसेल्फ होल्डिंग सर्टेन शेयर्स, ही इज नॉट इंडिपेंडेंट, है ना. सो रेलेवेंट एथिकल रिक्वायरमेंट मीट हो सकता है नहीं. And are there any significant matters which came across either in the current year audit or in the previous year audit? तो current year क्यों? Whether to continue, जो काम कर रहे हो उसको भी continue करना है या नहीं, है ना. And implications for continuing the audit engagement, है ना. Next year के लिए भी तो आप देखोगे ना continue करना है या नहीं. ठीक है. सो ऐसा सिग्निफिकेंट मैटर तो नहीं है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल एनी फ्रॉड वॉज डिटेक्टेड इन विच द सीनियर मैनेजमेंट वॉज इटसेल्फ इन्वॉल्व, दे वर नॉट प्रोवाइडिंग यू विद ऑल द इंफॉर्मेशन, तो सिग्निफिकेंट मैटर है ना. इट विल हैव एन इम्प्लीकेशन फॉर कंटिन्यूइंग द ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट. क्लियर. तो अभी आप देखो, ऑल दीज फैक्टर्स आर गोइंग टू इफेक्ट द क्वालिटी ना. अगर आपको पता है, अगर इंटीग्रिटी ऑफ ऑनर्स है ही नहीं, दे आर नॉट स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड, दे आर नॉट ऑनेस्ट, तो आप क्वालिटी वर्क कैसे रेंडर कर पाओगे? If you do not have the competent team, how will you be able to maintain the quality of the work? ठीक है. Further, it says that in case the client relationship has been accept कर लिया, later on the engagement partner obtains the information which could have caused the firm to decline the audit engagement had that information been available earlier. ठीक है, क्या बोल रही है कि एंगेजमेंट, ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट एक्सेप्ट कर लिया, लेटर ऑन एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर को कुछ ऐसा पता चलता है जो अगर पहले पता चल जाता, देन ऑडिट फर्म वो असाइनमेंट लेती ही नहीं, वो एंगेजमेंट करती ही नहीं. तो ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर को क्या करना है? ही नीड्स टू कम्युनिकेट इंफॉर्मेशन क्विकली, प्रॉम्प्टली टू द फर्म, सो दैट द फर्म एंड द एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर कैन टेक नेसेसरी एक्शंस. ठीक है. सो अगर ऐसी कोई इंफॉर्मेशन पता चल जाती जो अगर पहले पता होती तो द फर्म वुड नॉट हैव एक्सेप्टेड द एंगेजमेंट, तो क्विकली इन्फॉर्म करो टू द फर्म एंड टेक द नेसेसरी एक्शन. ठीक है, सिंपल है, लॉजिकल है. सो रामचंद्र, अभी वी विल बी डूइंग essay 210, है ना, उसमें योर डाउट विल बी क्लियर. ठीक है, इज इट क्लियर? तो एक्सेप्टेंस एंड कंटिन्यूएंस ऑफ क्लाइंट रिलेशनशिप में बेसिकली इट सेज दैट इट इज द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर टू बी सैटिस्फाइड वेदर एप्रोप्रिएट प्रोसीजर रिगार्डिंग एक्सेप्टेंस कंटिन्यूएंस ऑफ क्लाइंट रिलेशनशिप हैज बीन डन और नॉट. उसके लिए एसक्यूसी 1 से दैट फर्म, ऑडिट फर्म, इट इज योर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी टू ऑब्टेन द इंफॉर्मेशन बिफोर एक्सेप्टिंग द एंगेजमेंट. व्हाई? टू असिस्ट द एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर टू डिटरमाइन व्हाट, ये जो ऊपर बोला गया. ठीक है, क्या क्या इंफॉर्मेशन? इंटेग्रिटी ऑफ ओनर्स, की मैनेजमेंट, दोज चार्ज विद गवर्नेंस, टीम, competent time, whether it is competent time and resources are available, firm and engagement partner, whether they comply with ethical requirements or not, any significant matter that has an implication on continuing the audit engagement. ठीक है. See, necessary action can be withdraw from the engagement ना, withdraw from the engagement, है ना. Or let's say if any of the relative of the partner CAA, he is holding the shares. So under Companies Act, a period of 60 days is given कि you can sell off the shares within 60 days. तो promptly communicate कर दो ना, so that वो sell off करवा दें shares को. Clear? और withdraw from the engagement. Clear? ठीक है. So let us have a look at this point from the module. The engagement partner shall be satisfied that appropriate procedure regarding what same has been followed. उसके लिए क्या बोला SQC 1 ने? Firm to obtain information before accepting the engagement. Information such as the following, ये वाला सारे information assist the engagement partner in determining what, whether the decisions are appropriate or not. The integrity of principal owners, key management, those charged with governance, whether engagement team is competent to perform the audit engagement, whether the firm and engagement team can comply with relevant ethical requirements and significant matters. And it says that if the engagement partner obtains information that would have caused the firm to decline, matlab not to accept the audit engagement, had that information been available earlier, the engagement partner shall communicate that information promptly, quickly to the firm, so that the firm and the engagement partner can take the necessary actions. Yes, Sudhanshu, we will do this topic today. Hana? So your doubt will be cleared later on. Firm here means audit firm. Goma Arora, firm here means audit firm. Client to, वैसे तो I'm referring to it as the client or the company, but firm से I mean the audit firm. ये जो भी policies कर रहा है, firm ही तो maintain करेगा ना, in order to maintain the quality of the services, audit services that are being provided. ठीक है? So we have done 3 points with respect to elements of system of quality control. Now is human resources. Human resources. Who is going to conduct the audit? The persons. So these are what? Human resources. So unless and until the team which is going to conduct the audit, that is not satisfied, that is not competent, है ना, the quality work cannot be delivered. इतना तो पता है. So that is why this is a point relating to what? Human resources. That the audit firm, here firm means audit firm, Goma. So the firm should establish the policies and procedures with respect to what? Human resources. Firm should know whether it has sufficient personnel with the capabilities, competence, commitment to ethical principles. Let's say companies there where the client companies there where US gaps are the applicable financial reporting framework. Now the client, the audit firm, they should send a team to that particular client. That team should be well versed with US gaps ना, otherwise quality work थोड़ी ना आएगा. तो वो कैसे पता चलेगा whether they have sufficient personnel with the capabilities, competence, commitment to ethical principles. उसके लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा? The firm should have the policies and procedures. ठीक है? And why? So that the engagement can be performed in accordance with professional standards, regulatory and legal requirements, and to enable the firm to issue reports that are appropriate in the circumstances. If you remember, I told you in the last session that these two lines are repeated again and again in this topic. है ना? ठीक है? ठीक है? See, whatever I write here, na, basically these are keywords only, Ayush. Connecting language can be your own, but try to pick up the keywords. जैसे देखो ये वाला human resources हम यहाँ से पढ़ते हैं, देखो. So the firm should establish the policies and procedures. अब ये देखो common है ना. आगे हम पढ़ेंगे human resource, then engagement performance पढ़ेंगे 5th point, then we will be studying the 6th point as monitoring. Same language is used everywhere. Right? So for all those who are asking me as to how to learn, how to write in exam. So firm needs to establish the policies and procedures. And ये audit firm की बात कर रहे हैं. I hope it is clear. So as to obtain reasonable assurance that the firm has sufficient personnel with the competence, capabilities, commitment to ethical requirement. ठीक है? उसके लिए now, policies and procedures relating to what all? Recruitment, है ना? Performance and evaluation, capabilities, competence, career development, promotion, compensation, estimation of personal needs. So these are what? These are basically HR functions. देखा है ना कि जो भी team ABC and Associates में CA and his team is going down. So with respect to if all these parameters of this team are correct, if there are certain policies and procedures, obviously they are going to deliver quality work. So recruitment, है ना? Performance evaluation, capabilities, competence, career development. Articleship में you must be having certain sections ना. कुछ seminars होते होंगे, कुछ trainings होती होंगी, Excel training भी होती है. Advanced Excel training भी होती है. Training like when there was a transition from VAT to GST, then trainings with respect to that, है ना? Then promotion, compensation and estimation of personal needs. ठीक है? अब ये सब करने से क्या होगा? देखो, it will enable the audit firm to ascertain the number and characteristics of individual required for the firm's engagement. If the audit firm is having policies and procedures with respect to all these HR functions. So first of all, the audit firm will be able to ascertain that what is the number, what is the characteristics of the individual, the resources that we require, and having aware about what is the number and characteristics of the person that they require. Number is कितना की टीम चाहिए, characteristics is जैसे उनको US gap आना चाहिए, उनको SAP software deal करना आना चाहिए, ठीक है? And they will be in a position to select the individual with the integrity and the capacity to work on a particular assignment. ठीक है? तो basically what we are saying that in order to improve the quality of the work, the system of quality control of an audit firm should have policies and procedures relating to the human resource function. ठीक है? So as to obtain reasonable assurance that they have sufficient personnel with respect to competence, capability, commitment. देखो अगर if And if the audit firm is not making such policies, how will they know that how much staff they have, what are the capabilities, what is the competence, है ना, कैसे पता चलेगा ना. So उसके लिए such policies and procedure needs to be there. So it will help them to identify the number and characteristics of individuals जो required है, and accordingly they'll be in a position to select them. Krishna and Ramachandra, wait. अभी I'm telling you again and again that ऐसे 210 में ये सारे डाउट्स आपके क्लियर हो जाएंगे. तो अभी जो पढ़ रहे हैं उस पर कॉन्सेंट्रेट करो ना. ठीक है, clear? So with this we have done the fourth point also. Now is the fifth point, that the firm, audit firm, needs to have the policies and procedures with respect to engagement performance. With respect to engagement performance, देखो हमने क्या बोला है, we are saying that we need to improve the quality of the work of the audit firm. तो उसके लिए leadership responsibilities, ethical requirements should be met, acceptance and continuance of client relationship भी देखा, then human resources भी देखा, and then how the engagement is being performed. उसके लिए भी the firm needs to have policies and procedures, है ना, how the engagement is performed. And the sixth point is what, whether all these 5 points are monitored. Whatever policies and procedures the firm is having with respect to quality control, whether monitoring हो रही है या नहीं उसकी, because outdated अगर आपकी policies and procedures है, then there is no use, है ना. So we will discuss point number 5th and 6th now. So Jyoti, try to understand competence, है ना, कि let's say a client is there where IFRS is the applicable financial reporting framework. तो वहां पर तो आप वही टीम भेजोगे ना जिसको IFRS की नॉलेज होएगी. क्लियर? ठीक है. Now is the next point relating to what, engagement performance. And as Ayush was asking me and other students were also asking, ma'am, how to learn. देखो same है ना. Just a minute. Firm to establish the policies and procedures to obtain a reasonable assurance. ये भी तो यहाँ पर भी तो यही पढ़ा था ना. अब ह्यूमन रिसोर्स में क्या रीजनेबल एश्योरेंस लेना कि सफिशिएंट पर्सोनल है विद द रिक्विजिट कंपिटेंस कैपेबिलिटी कमिटमेंट. ठीक है. हियर व्हाट वी आर सीइंग, एज द नेम सजेस्ट, एंगेजमेंट परफॉर्मेंस, है ना. In order to obtain reasonable assurance that the engagement audit performed is in accordance with the professional standards, legal and regulatory requirements, and the firm issues appropriate report. अब ये बताओ, I told you, I'm telling you since the last session that these lines are repeated again and again, है ना. So for all those who are saying, मैम कैसे learn करना है, तो ऐसे ही learn करना है ना, थोड़ा सा smart से. Like somewhere or other you need to learn, somewhere or other you need to be a smart learner. ये आपको पता है, ये repeat हो रही है lines, so devote your time in this ना. ठीक है. So engagement performance में क्या है, again the firm needs to establish policies and procedure to obtain reasonable assurance that the engagement performed is in accordance with professional standards, issues, reports and which are appropriate in the circumstances. तभी तो quality of the audit work will increase when the audit has been performed. Engagement here means what? Audit, है ना, with standards and legal regulatory requirements and issues the reports which are appropriate. ठीक है. Is it clear? Now, what is the benefit of establishing the policies and procedures with respect to engagement performance? See, there is a set format that if any audit is to be conducted now, this software will be used. Hana? These are the manuals. First, the audit team will go through the manual. They have a checklist that you need to obtain all this information. This is going to increase consistency and thereby increasing the quality now. Engagement, how the engagement is being performed, how the audit is being conducted. एक software tool provide कर दिया कि आपको इसमें डेटा फीड करना है, एक मैनुअल दे दिया that you need to read this manual and then collect the data. Some checklist has been given. For example, one team is there in the audit firm which is conducting what audit of all the banks. So they are given certain guidance material on the bank audits, that when you are conducting the audit of the bank, you need to consider it. So automatically the quality of the work that team is going to deliver will increase now. ठीक है, so consistency and quality will increase. And how is it done? Through written or electronic manual. Some manuals are given, some software tools are given, or some guidance material are given. What are the matter addressed in all these things? How the team is briefed, है ना? How the engagement partner is going to brief the team. Brief the team is tell the team कि हमें क्या काम करना है ना? प्रोसेस ऑफ कंप्लाइंग विद एंगेजमेंट स्टैंडर्ड्स. व्हाट इज द प्रोसेस? अगर ऑडिट हो रहा है तो स्टैंडर्ड्स ऑन ऑडिटिंग से कैसे करना है, रिव्यू हो रहा है तो रिव्यू एंगेजमेंट स्टैंडर्ड से कैसे कंप्लाई करना है, हाउ द सुपरविजन, स्टाफ ट्रेनिंग, कोचिंग विल टेक प्लेस, व्हाट इज द मेथड ऑफ रिव्यूइंग द वर्क दैट द टीम हैज डन, हाउ डू यू एप्रोप्रिएट डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, व्हाट इज द टाइमिंग एंड एक्सटेंट ऑफ रिव्यू. इफ यू रिमेंबर इन द लास्ट सेशन आई टोल्ड यू दैट वी विल बी डूइंग इन डिटेल ऐसे 213 चैप्टर नंबर 3 रिलेटिंग टू ऑडिट डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, है ना? आपको कैसे पता चलेगा कि काम अच्छे से हुआ है? After 2 years, if you have to look at whether the audit of so and so company 2 years ago, whether it was done properly or not, you should have certain thing in your hand, that is what audit documentation, which contains documents of all the audit procedures that were performed during the conduct of audit. है ना? So it may be in your physical form, it may be in soft files. So how to maintain the appropriate documentation, what is the timing extent of review, and process to keep all the policies process current. Current is what? Updated. What is the process? ऐसे तो नहीं है कि आपने बैंक ऑडिट पे जो आप गाइडेंस मटेरियल दे रहे हो वो बहुत पुराना है, उसके बाद तो बहुत कुछ नया आ चुका है. So how to keep the policies and procedures updated. ठीक है. सी स्टूडेंट्स, यहाँ पर वी आर नॉट सेइंग कि ऑडिटर जो है ये कंपनी को बता रहा है, या कंपनी का भी हम कुछ डिस्कस ही नहीं कर रहे हैं क्लाइंट का. हम क्या डिस्कस कर रहे हैं कि ये मेरा फर्म है ABC एंड एसोसिएट्स. CAA is the engagement partner and his team is going to conduct the audit. Now within these are going to deliver the audit report na, ye CA and his team, they are going to deliver the audit report, they are going to perform the audit procedures ना. तो वो जो वर्क जो ऑडिट वो करने जा रहे हैं उनका क्वालिटी कैसे मेंटेन करना है, उसके लिए certain responsibilities are there on the firm. That firm ABC and associates, you make certain policies and procedures with respect to engagement performance, कि ऐसे engagement को मतलब audit को perform करना है और वो टीम को दे दो. कैसे? by form of what? सॉफ्टवेयर टूल दे दो, कुछ रिटन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मैनुअल्स, कुछ भी गाइडेंस मटेरियल दे दो. फिर उससे क्या होगा? CAA एंड हिज टीम when they go through the manual, they now know कि CA को पता है कि अच्छा ऐसे टीम को ब्रीफिंग करना है, ऐसे बताना है, ऐसे कंप्लाई करना है, ऐसे स्टाफ ट्रेनिंग और कोचिंग होगी, रिव्यू ऐसे करना है, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन ऐसे मेंटेन करना है. सो व्हेन देयर आर सेट गाइडलाइंस, दीज आर विद इन द फर्म का इंटरनल मैटर है ये. ठीक है, तो ऑटोमेटिकली क्वालिटी बढ़ेगी ना. ठीक है, इज इट क्लियर? Sharon, send in your query. What is your doubt? ठीक है, clear है. And the last point is with respect to monitoring. Monitoring में क्या है? That the firm needs to, again saying, firm needs to establish the policies and procedure to provide reasonable assurance. What reasonable assurance? Provide it with. That means to obtain reasonable assurance that whatever policies and procedures of quality control are there, जो अभी तक हमने पढ़ी हैं, all these 5 policies and procedures. देखो यहाँ पर था ना, let me just, ये वर्ड था ना, just a minute. Policies and procedures. हमने क्या बोला था? The firm system of quality control should include policies and procedures addressing each of the following elements. So now the 6th point, monitoring, says that whatever policies and procedures relating to quality control are there, ठीक है, the firm now needs to establish policies and procedure to ensure that जो भी ऊपर policies and procedure maintain किए हैं ना relating to system of quality control, these are relevant, these are adequate, these are operating effectively and these are actually complied with. सिर्फ rules बनाने से follow हो जाते हैं क्या? नहीं, monitor भी तो करना पड़ेगा. Policies and procedures तो you have made, है ना? But whether these are operating effectively, whether these are relevant, ऐसा तो नहीं है आपने policies and procedures में, for example here, जो ये guidance material आप दिए जा रहे हो, this is outdated, है ना? ऐसा तो नहीं है, ठीक है. सेम वे आप करियर डेवलपमेंट, जो आपने रेम्यूनरेशन यहाँ पे है ना, कॉम्पेंसेशन, दिस इज नॉट अप टू डेट, ऐसा तो नहीं है, ठीक है, बिकॉज अगर ऐसा होगा तो क्वालिटी विल नॉट बी देयर ना. So monitoring, the firm needs to establish the policies and procedures that provided with reasonable assurance that all the policies and procedures, जो ऊपर वाली policies procedures हैं वो ठीक है नहीं, उसके लिए और policies and procedures बनाने हैं, ठीक है, ठीक है. Now how can monitoring be done? So basically जितना भी quality control के लिए policies and procedures बनाया है उसकी monitoring कर रहे हैं, वो actual में हो भी रहा है या नहीं, तो वो कैसे हो सकता है? एक तो आप ongoing consideration, that is as and when the work is going on, you are checking it then and there, है ना, कि अच्छा ऐसे ट्रेनिंग हो रही है ना, कॉम्पेंसेशन ऐसे जा रहा है ना, प्रोफेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स फॉलो हो रहे हैं ना, ऑनगोइंग कंसिडरेशन एंड इवैल्यूएशन ऑफ फर्म सिस्टम ऑफ क्वालिटी कंट्रोल. वन कैन बी दिस ऑनगोइंग, है ना, जो साइड बाय साइड यू आर डूइंग इट. एंड periodic inspection of selection of completed engagement. I told you that audit documentation we will be doing in essay 230 in detail in chapter number 3, है ना. तो पहला पॉइंट कहता है मॉनिटरिंग कैसे करो, आप साइड बाय साइड मॉनिटर की तरह देखते रहो कि सब कुछ ठीक चल रहा है या नहीं, तो पार्टनर्स विल सी दैट, ठीक है. एंड सेकेंडली पीरियोडिक इंस्पेक्शन ऑफ सिलेक्शन ऑफ कंप्लीटेड एंगेजमेंट, जो एंगेजमेंट ऑडिट रिव्यू अश्योरेंस जो पहले कंप्लीट हो चुके हैं उनका कुछ डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, कुछ फाइल्स सॉफ्ट कॉपी या हार्ड कॉपी होगा. सिलेक्ट देम, few of such completed engagement, select them and उसको इंस्पेक्ट करो. इंस्पेक्ट का क्या मतलब है? आप उन डॉक्यूमेंटेशन को देखो कि वो जो तब हुआ था ठीक से हुआ था. Ongoing is what? Side as and when the work is going on, you are considering them. Periodic inspection of selection of completed engagement, जो काम हो चुका है उसको भी periodically इंस्पेक्ट करते रहो. क्वालिटी तभी तो पता चलेगा ना कहां पर प्रॉब्लम थी, ठीक है, ठीक है. Now what is the purpose? If the audit firm is maintaining, establishing policies and procedures relating to monitoring, अब आप monitor कर रहे हो that whatever policies and procedures are there relating to the quality control, कि वो ठीक है या नहीं, तो उससे क्या होगा? There will be adherence, compliance to professional standards, legal and regulatory requirements, है ना. अब आपको श्योर हो जाओगे कि हाँ ठीक है. Since see, when you are going through the documentation of the completed engagement, आपको दिखेगा ना कि हाँ देखो ऐसे ये वाला फॉलो किया हुआ है, ये भी फॉलो किया हुआ है, ये भी फॉलो किया हुआ है, ठीक है. लीगल रिक्वायरमेंट्स भी दिखेंगी, बिकॉज आई टोल्ड यू ऑडिट डॉक्यूमेंटेशन में whatever work the auditor performs, it is documented. जो भी काम किया है, कल को कुछ प्रॉब्लम होती है, ऑडिटर ये तो ना बोलेगा कि मैंने किया था, हाँ किया था एंड आई हैव अ प्रूफ ऑल्सो, हैव अ लुक एट माई डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, ठीक है. देन the purpose is that quality control system is appropriately designed and effectively implemented. पता चल जाएगा ना कि प्रोफेशनल स्टैंडर्ड से कंप्लाई हो रहा है या नहीं, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन जैसे मेंटेन होना चाहिए था. फॉर एग्जांपल हियर इन एंगेजमेंट परफॉर्मेंस देयर इज अ पॉइंट कि ऐसे डॉक्यूमेंटेशन मेंटेन करना है. नाउ व्हेन आफ्टर 2 years आई एम हैविंग अ लुक एट हाउ द डॉक्यूमेंटेशन वाज मेंटेन्ड, आई विल बी एबल टू नो whether quality control system was appropriately designed and effectively implemented and whether appropriate report has been issued. Further, the personnel of the audit firm, they needs to follow up in order to make necessary modification wherever it is रिक्वायर्ड। जहां पर भी आपको लगता है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपने डॉक्यूमेंटेशन के लिए रिक्वायरमेंट बना रखा था दैट बॉक्स फाइल में हार्ड कॉपीज में इट शुड बी मेंटेन, ठीक है। नाउ सिंस एवरीथिंग इज कंप्यूटराइज, सो नाउ फॉलो अप चल रहा है, तो यू विल चेंज इट ना। अब आप बोलोगे कि सॉफ्ट कॉपी में भी, वैसे सॉफ्ट कॉपी में भी इट कैन बी मेंटेन, बट आई एम जस्ट गिविंग एन एग्जांपल, सो इट विल बी मेंटेन लाइक दैट ऑल्सो, ठीक है। सो वेदर ऑल दी पॉलिसीज एंड प्रोसीजर्स रिलेटिंग टू क्वालिटी कंट्रोल आर appropriately implemented or not, वो correct है या नहीं, appropriately designed and effectively implemented. So for that monitoring, the auditor needs to, the audit firm needs to establish the policies and procedure. So let us read this monitoring wala point. So you may get a direct question, है ना, establishing policies and procedures relating to monitoring is necessary, explain. So the firm should establish policies and procedure designed to provide it with reasonable assurance that policies and procedure relating to quality, system of quality control are relevant, कि वो relevant है, adequate है, operating effectively है, complied with है। कैसे कैसे कर सकते हो, ongoing consideration कर सकते हो, या periodic inspection of selection of completing engagements कर लो। उससे क्या होगा, professional standards adhere हो जाएंगे, आपको पता चल जाएगा कि whether it is appropriately designed and effectively implemented, and report appropriate आ रहे हैं नहीं। फॉलो अप करना जरूरी है, why, so that necessary modification can be promptly done. Yes, it can be both also. आप दोनों भी तो कर सकते हो ना, ongoing consideration भी कर रहे हो, या आप क्या कर रहे हो, including लिखा है ना, periodic inspection भी कर रहे हो. Same way with respect to monitoring. So for engagement performance, for all those who are saying ma'am how to write, so see ये line सब जगह same है, be smart learners ना, है ना। तो यहाँ पर मेन वो क्या है कि प्रोफेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स, लीगल रिक्वायरमेंट्स कंप्लाई हो रहे हैं नहीं, एंड एप्रोप्रिएट रिपोर्ट आ रहा है नहीं। उसके लिए क्या करना है, आपको कुछ मैनुअल्स दोगे आप टीम को, कुछ सॉफ्टवेयर टूल्स दोगे ना, कुछ गाइडेंस मटेरियल दोगे ना, उससे क्या पता चलेगा, फॉर एग्जाम्पल सीए को पता चलेगा कि टीम को कैसे ब्रीफिंग करनी है, मतलब उनको कैसे समझाना है, कैसे एप्लीकेबल एंगेजमेंट स्टैंडर्ड से कंप्लाई करना है, कैसे सुपरविजन ट्रेनिंग करना है, कैसे रिव्यू करना है, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन करना है, टाइम एंड एक्सटेंड, एंड कैसे आपको अपडेटेड रखता है। हाँ, तो फिर स्टेप्स विल बी टेकन ना प्रणव in order to rectify it. See, I've explained everything. I've tried to explain everything, including like in Hindi as well as in English. So, Briksha, please tell me which part you want me to explain in English again. And this is with respect to HR. Okay? So, with this, we have done a very important topic of what? Elements of a system of quality control. So, Briksha, send in the paragraph, the point that you want me to explain in English again. So, we have done human resources, engagement, performance, and monitoring. So, basically, purpose, what is the purpose? That the audit firm, the audit services, or any of the engagement services that have been delivered by the team, engagement team, that should have quality. For that, the audit firm needs to have internal policies and procedures, that this is the way the leadership responsibilities, the engagement partner will perform his leadership responsibilities. This is the way how we will look at the ethical requirements. This is the way whether the acceptance and continuance should be there or not. This is the way to determine whether acceptance continuance should be there or not. With respect to human resources, engagement, performance, monitoring, these are the policies and procedures which needs to be followed. Okay. So with respect to weightage of this chapter, I'll tell you this is the foundation of your entire CA intermediate course, and in fact the audit course at the final level also, because these are the basics. Unless and until you are aware about independence, the term reasonable, assurance, misstatement, material, fraud, error, professional skepticism, है ना, preconditions which we will be doing just now, essay 210. तो these are the foundations, है ना। तो अब ये मत सोचो कि इसका वेटेज कितना है, हाँ वेटेज भी है, बट अदरवाइज इट इज अ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक। ठीक है, ऑनगोइंग कंसिडरेशन इज साइड बाय साइड भी, तो यू कैन चेक इट ना, कि एज इन व्हेन द ऑडिट इज टेकिंग प्लेस यू आर चेकिंग हाउ द सेम इज बीन डन। ठीक है कृष्णा, इज इट क्लियर? See, I'm repeating it again and again. ये जो reasonable assurance word is used here ना in this engagement, performance, monitoring, and your human resources. So ऑडिट फर्म को ही तो मिल रहा है ना ये. आई टोल्ड यू दैट अभी कंपनी का क्लाइंट का कुछ लेना देना नहीं है. ये तो क्या है दैट द ऑडिट फर्म has to deliver quality or the engagement firm they need to deliver quality services. वो क्वालिटी कैसे मेंटेन होएगा? तो वो तो आपका फर्म इंटरनल मैटर है ना, इंटरनली डिसाइड करेगा ना पॉलिसी प्रोसीजर कि हम इस सॉफ्टवेयर टूल पे वर्क करेंगे, कि हमारा एचआर ऐसे फंक्शन करेगा, कि हम मॉनिटर ऐसे करेंगे. उसमें क्लाइंट को ना जाके बताएंगे कि देखो हमने ऐसे किया है. ठीक है, इज इट क्लियर? Yatiraj, is it clear? And Jema, is your doubt clear? Subhiksha, whose purpose? Purpose of this monitoring compliance. So Subhiksha has asked me to repeat this purpose of monitoring compliance. So why there needs to be policies and procedures with respect to purpose of monitoring compliance. So if there will be policies and procedures, Hana. So if ongoing the partners in the firm, they are checking whether the policies and procedures have been followed, whether they are doing, if they are doing the periodic inspection of the completed engagement, they will be able to know whether the professional standards, the standards on auditing or on review engagements, whatever is the engagement, and the legal and regulatory requirements, whether these have been met or not. है ना? They will be able to know whether the quality control system is designed appropriately and whether it is effectively implemented. Further, whether appropriate report has been issued or not. ठीक है? So this is the purpose why policies and procedures with respect to monitoring. See, you have made the rules and regulations, but you are not monitoring it. So will it be implemented? No. So monitoring is very much important. ठीक है? Subhiksha, is it clear? ठीक है? So I'll do one thing. Now a topic which is contained in essay 210. All these topics are contained in the topics that are left. Point number, your paragraph number 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's it. These are essay 210, agreeing the terms of audit engagement, which is again a very, very important very important topic. Okay, so we will do one thing, we will take a break of 10 minutes here and quickly after 10 minutes we'll come because I want to discuss this topic along with the questions. And also students, I have already uploaded the questions, the practice question which has a case scenario, MCQs and descriptive questions, and I've also uploaded the answer sheets on the portal. Hana? So or the app, or you can download them, and in case of any doubt you can ask me those doubts. See, I'll try to discuss all the questions, but it all depends upon how much time will be left after we complete essay 210. Okay? So a quick break of 10 minutes here. So students, I hope you all are back after the break, and I can see that there is a doubt of Mr. Ramchandra Kopar with respect to this fourth point. So before starting with SC210, I'll just clarify on this point. So it is basically saying that how to assess the reliability and sufficiency of the information contained in underlying records. So it says, first of all, the auditor will study and evaluate accounting system and internal control. Okay? The auditor will peruse, study, and go through the accounting system, how the internal controls are working, how the accounting system works. Okay? Carry out such other test inquiries and other verification procedures of accounting transactions and balances as considers appropriate in particular circumstances. So this point is basically saying that then the auditor will decide his audit procedures. So what are audit procedures? If you remember in the last session, I told you that audit procedures are all the procedures that an auditor performs during the conduct of audit. And I told you that in chapter number 3, we will do all such audit procedures in detail. But for the purpose of this chapter, I told you that inquiry, when the auditor is asking the management about certain things, that is what inquiry. When the auditor is going through a document, that is what inspection. When the auditor is observing something, that any procedure that has been performed by the management, for example, the management, the client personnel, they are verifying the inventory, and the auditor is observing that, looking at that process, that is called what? Observation. So whatever kind of test, whatever kind of audit procedures the auditor consider it appropriate in the particular circumstances, then auditor will decide the nature, time and extent of such audit procedures. Okay? So Mr. Ramchandra, I hope it is clear to you now. Okay? And Sharan Krishnan, with respect to independence of appearance, in appearance, it basically means that, see, independence should be in mind of the auditor. Also, to a third party, the auditor should appear to be independent. है ना? उसके लिए it is saying that independence in appearance means avoidance of facts and circumstances. That auditor should avoid such facts and circumstances which may lead the third party to think that the auditor is not independent, he is not exercising objectivity, integrity and professional skepticism. So is it clear, Mr. Harish? Whose doubt was it? Sharan. Okay. Now let us start with SC210, a very important topic, and it is quite lengthy. So Abhi, I'm not taking up any further doubts. I'll start with SA210. Okay. So students, when we have done acceptance and continuance of client relationship, as one of the quality control, then I told you that we will be studying SA210 relating to what? Agreeing the terms of audit engagement. Okay? Agreeing the terms of audit engagement. Agreeing is agreeing between whom? Between the audit firm and the client. The terms of audit engagement. Terms, that means that this will be your responsibility, this will be my responsibility. If I am writing to the client that, client, suno, when we will be doing this audit engagement, these are going to be the terms. That this will be your responsibility, this will be my responsibility, this will be my scope. कोई कंफ्यूजन ना हो आपको, लेटर ऑन आप बोलो ये भी चेक करो, लेटर ऑन आप मेरे को बोलो दैट इफ एनी ऑफ द ड्यूटीज आर देयर व्हिच फॉल आउटसाइड द स्कोप ऑफ माय कंपिटेंस, आई नीड टू परफॉर्म दैट, देन नो, आई एम क्लैरिफाइंग इट दैट दिस इज माय स्कोप, दिस इज द रिपोर्ट दैट आई एम गोइंग टू इशू, है ना? तो everything, in order to avoid any confusion later on, the auditor, the audit firm, it needs to enter into an agreement with the client, है ना? अगर आप audit करने जा रहे हो, फीस भी तो डिस्कस करोगे ना, कि क्या काम करके देंगे, कितना फीस लेंगे, आपकी क्या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, हमारी क्या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, हम क्या रिपोर्ट देंगे आपको, व्हाट विल बी द एंड रिजल्ट, रिपोर्ट कैसे देंगे, ठीक है, क्लियर, इन सिंपल लैंग्वेज, ठीक है. सो व्हाट इज द नेम, agreeing the terms of audit engagement, ठीक है. Now students here try to understand the concept of management and those charged with governance. Management and those charged with governance. Quickly tell me, management कौन होता है? Those charged with governance, popularly known as those charged with TCWG. So see, management are the persons with executive responsibilities. ठीक है, for the conduct of entities operation, है ना. So the persons in the, अब हम किसकी बात कर रहे हैं, क्लाइंट की. Let's say our client is a company here. So company में the persons who are responsible for the day-to-day running, for the executive responsibilities for the conduct of the entities operation, उनको क्या बोलते हैं, management. And who are those charged with governance, TCWG? These are the persons responsible for overseeing the strategic direction, the direction in which the company is going to move, mergers, acquisitions करने हैं या नहीं, है ना. And they have the obligation related to accountability. They are accountable, ठीक है, and they are responsible for overseeing financial reporting, for supervising. तो prepare कौन कर रहा है, management, लेकिन उसको सुपरवाइज ओवरसी कौन कर रहा है, दोज चार्ज्ड विद गवर्नेंस. सो आई कैन से मैनेजमेंट आर दोज पर्संस व्हिच दोज हु हैव एग्जीक्यूटिव रिस्पांसिबिलिटीज फॉर द कंडक्ट ऑफ एंटिटीज ऑपरेशन, रिस्पांसिबल फॉर प्रिपरेशन प्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स, है ना, दोज रिस्पांसिबल फॉर डे टू डे एक्टिविटीज. बट दोज चार्ज्ड विद गवर्नेंस इन केस ऑफ अ कंपनी कौन होगा, पर्सन रिस्पांसिबल फॉर सुपरवाइजिंग ऑल सच फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग, है ना, जो स्ट्रेटेजिक डिसीजन मेकिंग में इन्वॉल्व होते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल ऑडिट कमिटी. अभी ऑडिट कमिटी क्या होता है, अगेन चैप्टर 10 में डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे. कंपनी, सर्टेन कंपनीज आर रिक्वायर्ड इन टर्म्स ऑफ सेक्शन 177 ऑफ द कंपनीज एक्ट 2013 टू फॉर्म ऑडिट कमिटी. सो दे बिकम दोज चार्ज्ड विद गवर्नेंस, ठीक है. तो ये तो हो गई कंपनी की बात. पर देखो, अगर कोई पार्टनरशिप फर्म है या कोई प्रोप्राइटरशिप फर्म है, तो वहां पर तो जो ओन करता है वो ही मैनेज करता है. तो देयर माइट नॉट बी एनी, देयर इज नो डिफरेंस ऑफ मैनेजमेंट एंड दोज चार्ज्ड विद गवर्नेंस, बिकॉज ये तो स्मॉल फर्म्स हो गई ना, पार्टनरशिप फर्म, प्रोप्राइटरशिप फर्म. हियर द ओनर and the manager are the same, so there is no difference between management and those charged with governance in such situations. ठीक है, क्लियर है ना. ये डिटेल में वैसे ऐसे 260 में आता है, कहीं ना कहीं ड्यूरिंग योर ऑल द चैप्टर्स अ रेफरेंस विल कम, है ना. चैप्टर नंबर 11 में ऑल्सो अ रेफरेंस विल कम टू एसए 260 एंड एसए 265. वहां पर और डिटेल में डिस्कस करेंगे. अभी के लिए ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस, ठीक है, ठीक है. Yes, Sudhanshu, you are correct. ठीक है. So those responsible for the day-to-day activities for preparation, presentation, management, those responsible for overseeing the financial responsibility for the strategic decision making, they are what, those charged with governance. But in certain cases, जहां proprietor is the owner, he is the manager himself, तो वहां पर कोई bifurcation नहीं होगा those charged with governance में और management में, ठीक है. अब यहाँ पर हम SC 210 में जहां पर भी मैनेजमेंट बोल रहे हैं, तो वहां पर भी ऑल्सो मीन व्हाट, दोज चार्ज्ड विद गवर्नेंस, ठीक है, ठीक है. नाउ व्हाट इज द स्कोप ऑफ एसए 210. तो 210 में देखो, एसए 200 में आपने क्या पढ़ा कि क्या ओवरऑल ऑब्जेक्टिव है. and that the audit need to be conducted in accordance with SA. अब आप आगे बढ़ते हो तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तो यू विल एंटर इनटू एन अग्रीमेंट विद द क्लाइंट ना, सो अग्रीइंग द टर्म्स ऑफ ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट. क्लियर है? SA 210. So what is the scope? See students, whenever we will study any standard on auditing now, you will see that it has a scope कि इस essay में what is contained in this essay. There will be certain objective that in terms of this essay, the objective of the auditor, the responsibility of the auditor is to do so. Because essays क्या है? ये guideline दे रहे हैं ना to the auditor, how the audit is to be performed. Now SA 210 gives a guideline as to how to agree to the terms of audit engagement. If auditor asks that can I just agree to the terms of audit engagement in just verbally, so the answer is no. Why? Because SA 210 says that it should be in writing. समझ रहे हो? So it provides a guideline. So this essay provides a guideline to the auditors so that a uniformity is there for all the auditors when they are agreeing the terms of the audit engagement. Clear? ठीक है? So it deals with the auditor's responsibility in agreeing the terms of audit engagement and where appropriate those charged with governance. अब मैंने आपको बता दी जहां पे those charged with governance है, अगर वो agree कर रहे हैं तो उनके लिए, जहां management है तो management. What is the objective? The objective of the auditor को क्या करना है? To accept and continue an audit engagement only when the basis upon which it is performed has been agreed, through establishing whether preconditions for an audit are present and confirming that there is common understanding between the auditor and management of the those charged with governance. अभी क्या बोला इतना सब कुछ देखो डिस्कस करते हैं. सबसे पहले अभी I'll go back to this objective. Preconditions for an audit. What are preconditions? Preconditions for an audit. The concept preconditions for an audit, it simply says that the auditor is going to accept an audit engagement if certain conditions are already existing, if certain conditions are already fulfilled. है ना? अगर ये conditions are not fulfilled, auditor do not accept the audit. So what are these conditions? First of all, auditor needs to determine whether the financial reporting framework in preparation of financial statement is acceptable. So before accepting an audit, auditor will see that if A Limited is there for which audit is to be conducted and the IND AS are applicable, whether this company has actually prepared the financial statement as per financial reporting framework which is applicable. ऐसा तो नहीं है that A Limited has made the financial statement based on IFRS, though the IND AS were applicable. So whether the FRF in preparation of financial statement is acceptable है तो ही तो करेंगे ना. Why? Because the responsibility to prepare the financial statement is that of the management. तो management ने वो prepare ठीक से किया है नहीं with respect to the applicable financial reporting framework. बस इतना देखना है. अभी we are not checking the financial statement in detail. वो तो जब audit accept कर लोगे उसके बाद you will do that ना. अभी तो we are seeing whether to accept the audit engagement or not. उसके लिए we will see whether the preconditions exist or not. Preconditions exist or not मतलब पहला कंडीशन हम देखेंगे that whether the financial reporting framework which is adopted, जो management ने adopt कर लिया है, whether that is acceptable or not. Clear? Secondly, preconditions कब exist? Preconditions में पहला तो क्या देखा कि FRF acceptable है या नहीं. Secondly, we will obtain an agreement with the management that it acknowledges and understand its responsibility. It acknowledges मतलब it accepts. मैनेजमेंट से पूछ लेंगे, मैनेजमेंट आपको पता है ना that you are responsible for all these things. What all these things? That you are responsible for preparation of financial statement as per applicable FRF. कल को हमें ये मत कह देना कि ऑडिट तो कर रहे हो, थोड़ा सा फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट भी बना दो. ठीक है? That you acknowledge मतलब आप accept कर रहे हो and you understand also that it is your responsibility to prepare the financial statement as per applicable FRF to implement the internal control. आपकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, कल को हमको मत बोल देना कि आपको इंटरनल कंट्रोल भी इंप्लीमेंट करना है। एंड मैनेजमेंट, आपको पता है ना दैट यू आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू प्रोवाइड अस द ऑडिटर with access to all information, with access to additional information, with access to unrestricted access to all the persons within the entity। जिससे भी हमें इंफॉर्मेशन लेनी होगी आप हमें अलाउ करना। आपको पता है ना, यू नीड टू अलाउ अस। आप ऐसे नहीं बोल सकते कि इससे बात मत करो, ठीक है। सो व्हाट वी आर सेइंग, SC 210 सेज दैट इन ऑर्डर टू एक्सेप्ट, है ना, agree to the terms of audit engagement से पहले ही आप देखोगे ना कि whether FRF that has been followed is acceptable. Secondly, obtain an agreement of the management that it acknowledges, it here means the management acknowledges means accepts and understand its responsibility for preparation of financial statement as per applicable FRF for internal control ka implementation and to provide auditor with access to all the information, additional information and unrestricted access to the persons within the entity. Clear hai? Is it clear? ठीक है। सो व्हाट इज योर ऑब्जेक्टिव? अब ऑब्जेक्टिव पढ़ते हैं। तो ऑब्जेक्टिव इज दैट द ऑडिटर विल एक्सेप्ट और कंटिन्यू एन ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट ओनली वन द बेसिस, और द वर्ड यूज्ड इज आल्सो व्हाट, प्रीमाइस, बेसिस, कि जिस बेसिस पे ऑडिट परफॉर्म होता है वो है या नहीं, और वो क्या बेसिस होते हैं, दैट दीज प्री कंडीशंस आर प्रेजेंट, है ना। व्हाट इज द बेसिस? यही तो प्रीमाइस है ना। इन द वेरी फर्स्ट सेशन ऑफ दिस चैप्टर वी स्टार्टेड आवर डिस्कशन फ्रॉम दिस ओनली ना, दैट हु इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर प्रिपरेशन प्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट? इट इज द मैनेजमेंट। हु इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर डिजाइन, इंप्लीमेंटेशन, मेंटेनेंस ऑफ इंटरनल कंट्रोल? इट इज द मैनेजमेंट। ऑडिट कैसे होएगा? मैनेजमेंट विल प्रोवाइड ऑडिटर विद ऑल द इंफॉर्मेशन, कोई भी एडिशनल इंफॉर्मेशन। ऐसा ना हो कि कल को मैनेजमेंट बोल रहा है कि अब दे दो दी इंफॉर्मेशन, वी विल नॉट प्रोवाइड यू एडिशनल इंफॉर्मेशन। नहीं, यू विल have to provide us, and you will have to provide us unrestricted access to the persons within the entity. Clear? And so premise, basis. So abhi aapke module mein you will see a term premise also. Premise means basis. So the objective is tabhi accept ya continue karna hai when the premise, the basis on which audit is performed, it is there. And what is that? First of all, precondition should be there. Further, the auditor needs to confirm that there is a common understanding between the auditor and management, or where applicable, those charged with governance of terms of audit engagement. टर्म्स जो भी हम लिखने जा रहे हैं ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट में, क्या फीस होगी, क्या काम होगा, क्या रिपोर्ट होगा, मैनेजमेंट भी अग्री कर रहा है ना। देखो शुरू में मैनेजमेंट बोल रहा है कि भाई ये तो नहीं चलेगा, हमें तो नहीं ये चाहिए, वी विल नॉट पे यू सच फीस, तो आप एक्सेप्ट थोड़ी ना करोगे। हम तो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फॉलो नहीं कर रहेंगे, हमको इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं देंगे, तो क्या आप ऑडिट करोगे? नहीं, है ना। तो प्री कंडीशंस क्या है? वेदर एप्लीकेबल एफआरएफ, जो एफआरएफ है जिससे फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट प्रिपेयर किए हैं, वेदर दैट इज एक्सेप्टेबल और नॉट। फर्दर, मैनेजमेंट एक्नॉलेजेस and understand its responsibility for preparation of financial statements as per applicable FRF for internal control implementation to provide auditor with access to all information, additional information, and restricted access to persons. Clear? Clear. So these are what preconditions. Now, if certain limitation on scope of auditor, on scope of audit prior to audit engagement acceptance is imposed, मतलब when you were discussing with the management ना कि अच्छा ये काम करना है, ऐसे करना है, at that time management told you कि देखो सारा काम कर लेना, we will provide you with all the information, but we will not provide you to access to the inventory verification. आप हमारा inventory मत verify करना. Now a limitation on the scope is imposed प्रायर टू ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट एक्सेप्टेंस, पहले से ही आपको मना कर दिया गया है। क्विकली मेरे को रिप्लाई करो, विल शुड द ऑडिटर एक्सेप्ट द ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट? शुड द ऑडिटर एक्सेप्ट, और अगर एक्सेप्ट करता है, विल द ऑडिटर बी इन अ पोजीशन टू गिव हिज ओपिनियन? सो द आंसर इज नो, बिकॉज inventory is a very important part, let's say a manufacturing company is there, it has a lot of inventory kept in its warehouses, in its factory, पर management ने पहले कर दिया भाई inventory के लिए हमें तंग मत करना, we will not get it verified, तो आप अपनी opinion दे पाओगे क्या? नहीं. So it says that if auditor believes that limitation will result in the auditor disclaiming an opinion, अब disclaimer of opinion क्या होती है हम ऐसे 705 में पढ़ेंगे, चैप्टर नंबर 11 में. अभी के लिए मैं बता देती हूँ. डिस्क्लेम कर दी कि मैं ओपिनियन ही नहीं दे सकता, आई कैन नॉट गिव एन ओपिनियन, क्योंकि मेरे को ऑडिट एविडेंस मिला ही नहीं, क्योंकि मेरे को ऑडिट प्रोसीजर वेरिफिकेशन ऑफ इन्वेंट्री के लिए करने ही नहीं दिए। तो अगर ऐसा कुछ हो जाएगा इस लिमिटेशन की वजह से, सो ऑडिटर शैल नॉट एक्सेप्ट, ऑडिटर शैल नॉट एक्सेप्ट, सिंपल है। तो ये बहुत लोगों का डाउट आ रहा था कि मैम अगर कुछ लिमिटेशन इम्पोज्ड हो तो क्या एक्सेप्ट करना है? मत करो ना एक्सेप्ट, कोई जबरदस्ती थोड़ी ना है। अभी at the before accepting the audit engagement, you became aware that limitation have been imposed by the management or those charged with governance, auditor shall not accept. क्लियर है, सिंपल है। तो अभी तक देखो हमने 210 में क्या पढ़ा, स्कोप क्या है, हमें देखना है कि ऑडिटर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी क्या है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू अग्रीइंग, यही वाला नेम है, अग्रीइंग द टर्म्स ऑफ ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट। ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है, तभी एक्सेप्ट करना है जब प्रीमाइस और बेसिस ऑन विच ऑडिट इज परफॉर्म्ड वो है, वो क्या है कि प्री कंडीशंस होनी चाहिए एंड जो भी अग्रीमेंट है उस पर कॉमन अंडरस्टैंडिंग होनी चाहिए। ठीक है, प्री कंडीशंस फॉर एन ऑडिट क्या है, दैट एफआरएफ के हिसाब से बनना होना चाहिए विच शुड बी एक्सेप्टेबल। मैनेजमेंट शुड एक्नॉलेज, मतलब उनको पता है, एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं, एंड अंडरस्टैंड their responsibility for preparation of financial statement, internal control, providing auditor with all information, additional information, unrestricted access to persons. पहले से ही कोई limitation है, before acceptance of audit engagement, do not accept that, so auditor shall not accept that. Clear? ठीक है। now what will be the terms? ठीक है, अब ऑडिटर कोई लिमिटेशन नहीं है, लेट्स से ऑडिटर हैज अग्रीड टू एक्सेप्ट दी ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट। नाउ व्हाट शुड बी द टर्म्स? जो अग्रीमेंट बना रहे हो ना, टर्म्स क्या होंगे? पहले तो राइटिंग में होगा, ओरली थोड़ी ना कुछ डिस्कस होएगा, है ना। देन यू विल स्पेसिफाई द स्कोप ऑफ वर्क, ठीक है, और इससे क्या होगा, मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग रिड्यूस हो जाएगा। लेटर ऑन मैनेजमेंट विल नॉट आस्क द ऑडिटर कि ऑडिटर ये भी तो करना था ना आपको, ऑडिटर मैंने थोड़ी ना बोला था आई प्रोवाइड यू विद ऑल द इंफॉर्मेशन। स्टार्टिंग से ही देयर विल बी व्हाट, क्लैरिटी दैट whose responsibility is what. So what will be the content? The objective and scope of audit of financial statement. That is, our objective is to obtain reasonable assurance. कल को ऐसा ना हो that management is saying कि देखो fraud आ गया, आपने तो कहा था absolute assurance आप दोगे, है ना। तो our objective is to obtain what? Reasonable assurance, and this is our scope that we will be checking accounting, internal control. कल को ऐसा ना हो management is saying कि internal control तो नहीं चेक करने देंगे हम आपको, जजमेंट्स के बारे में तो नहीं बताएंगे, स्कोप पढ़ा था ना, ठीक है। देन द अग्रीमेंट शैल इंक्लूड व्हाट, द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज, व्हाट आर द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज ऑफ द मैनेजमेंट, व्हाट आर द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज ऑफ द ऑडिटर, ठीक है। देन द अग्रीमेंट विल कंटेन आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ व्हाट इज द एप्लीकेबल एफआरएफ, है ना, कि इन योर केस एप्लीकेबल एफआरएफ इज इंड एएस फॉर द शेड्यूल 3 ऑफ द कंपनीज एक्ट वी आर फॉलो कर रहे हो। सो इट देयर शुड बी अ क्लियर आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ द एप्लीकेबल एफआरएफ, एंड द अग्रीमेंट शुड कंटेन अ रेफरेंस टू द एक्सपेक्टेड फॉर्म एंड कंटेंट ऑफ रिपोर्ट, दैट दिस विल बी आवर फॉर्म, दिस विल बी आवर कंटेंट ऑफ ऑडिट रिपोर्ट। ऐसे हम काम करने जा रहे हैं। क्लियर? क्लियर। तो अभी रुको, ये हम देखते हैं मॉड्यूल से, प्री कंडीशंस फॉर एन ऑडिट, SC 210, अग्रीइंग द टर्म्स ऑफ ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट। सो प्री कंडीशंस फॉर एन ऑडिट may be defined as the use by management of acceptable FRF in preparation of financial statement and agreement of management and where appropriate those charged with governance to the premise is what, basis on which the audit is conducted. क्लियर है? कोई डाउट है? नहीं है, ठीक है। अब preconditions है नहीं, what shall auditor check? He shall check whether the FRF is, financial reporting framework is acceptable or not, and he shall obtain an agreement of management that it acknowledges is what? Acknowledges what? Accepts and understand it's responsible for preparation of financial statement in accordance with FRF, internal control as management desire goods, and to provide auditor with access to all information, to additional information, to unrestricted access to persons within the entity. ठीक है, अब यहाँ पर ये आप एज अ होमवर्क कर लेना, ठीक है। अग्रीमेंट, अब अग्रीमेंट क्या है तो देखो, इट बेसिकली सेज कि जहां पर कंपनीज है ना, ये इसको रीड कर लेना, बट आई एम ब्रीफिंग इट, कंपनीज हैं तो वहां पर लॉ में बहुत ज्यादा स्पेसिफिकेशन आ जाता है दैट दिस विल बी द स्कोप, ठीक है। हाउएवर इन केस ऑफ पार्टनरशिप फर्म्स, है ना, जहां पर प्रोप्राइटरशिप फर्म, जहां पर इट इज नॉट मैंडेटरी जहां पर इट इज वॉलंटरी टू गेट द अकाउंट्स ऑडिटेड, तो वहां पर तो इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर बोथ द ऑडिटर एंड क्लाइंट दैट ईच पार्टी शुड बी क्लियर अबाउट द नेचर ऑफ द एंगेजमेंट, बिकॉज के लॉ में तो इट इज नॉट मेंशन ना, सो इट मस्ट बी रिड्यूस्ड इन राइटिंग एंड शुड एग्जैक्टली स्पेसिफाई द स्कोप ऑफ वर्क इन ऑर्डर टू व्हाट avoid the possibility of misstatement, misunderstanding. Clear? ठीक है, ये पार्टनरशिप फॉर्म वाला पढ़ लेना. एंड व्हाट इट शुड बी इन द फॉर्म ऑफ रिटन एग्रीमेंट एंड शुड इंक्लूड व्हाट द ऑब्जेक्टिव. इंपॉर्टेंट है ना, वैसे तो एंटायर SC 210 इज इंपॉर्टेंट, बट स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड क्वेश्चन आ सकता है. रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज ऑफ ऑडिटर, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज ऑफ मैनेजमेंट, आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ FRF, एक्सपेक्टेड फॉर्म एंड कंटेंट ऑफ एनी रिपोर्ट. ठीक है, क्लियर. नाउ रेकरिंग ऑडिट. रेकरिंग ऑडिट क्या है? That you are the auditor last year and now it is occurring again, that is you are the auditor this year also. So now the question arises that is there a requirement for the auditor to give and this letter of agreement is mentioned somewhere, just a minute. This, just a minute. So who will send this letter of this letter? Will auditor send it to the client or client send it to the auditor? See, it is mentioned here. The audit engagement letter is sent by the auditor to his client. I've given this to you as an MCQ or true false, kahin pe I mentioned it. So it will be sent by the auditor to the client. ठीक है, ठीक है. See, it basically says, last paragraph, it basically says, Sudhanshu, that if any law or regulation prescribes in sufficient detail the terms of audit engagement, जैसे what we are saying, that let's say with respect to banking companies, let's say the Banking Regulation Act, it mentions that with respect to a bank audit, these will be the responsibilities of the auditor, these will be the responsibilities of the management, these will be the applicable financial reporting framework. So it is already mentioned there. So in that case, the need not record them in a written agreement except for the fact that such law and regulation applies and that management acknowledges and understands its responsibility. तो उसको बार बार लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है, because law में बहुत अच्छे से mentioned है ना. But yes, in your agreement, give a reference to that law, that whatever is mentioned there, that will be the terms of the agreement. Sudhanshu, is it clear? ठीक है, ठीक है. तो it will be sent by the auditor to the client. ठीक है. Now recurring audit, I told you the audit which you were the auditor last year also and it is occurring again. You are the auditor this year also. Now the question arises, is there a need to send letter, the agreement containing terms of engagement again and again? So the answer is no. ठीक है. The auditor may decide not to send a new engagement letter or other written agreement each period unless and until auditor feels that there is a requirement to revise the terms of engagement or to remind the management of the terms of engagement. So there is no need to send it again and again unless and until the auditor feels that it is necessary. Now, under what circumstances it will be necessary? So if there is a indication that entity misunderstands the objective and scope of audit. Last year, the agreement was entered into. But at the time of signing the report, there was some misunderstanding. Ki management was saying that you were supposed to do that also. Auditor was saying, no, see, it is not mentioned in the agreement. So if there is an indication that entity misunderstands the objective and scope, then send it again this year also. If any revised or special terms of audit engagement has been introduced, if any terms of the audit engagement, there has been a revision of the fee. So obviously you are going to send it again now. Okay. Then a recent change of senior management is there. Dekho, who are involved in the interacting with the auditors? The senior management. They are responsible for getting that information available with the auditor. Now, if there is a change in the senior management or ownership change हो गया या nature and size, पहले ये company सिर्फ trading कर रही थी, now it is doing manufacturing also. Change in legal and regulatory requirements हो गया है, VAT से GST पे आ गया है या कोई additional tax लग गया है, change in FRF हो गया है या change in other reporting requirements हो गया है, then obviously since now the scope will change, है ना. So that is why there is a need of what, sending a revised audit engagement letter. Simple है, simple है, ठीक है. So again, see, R&R company, R&R company, a firm of chartered accountant, have not revised the terms of audit engagement and obtained confirmation from the client for the past 5 years, despite changes in business and professional environment. Changes हो रहे हैं. So what are the circumstances that may warrant revision? So the auditor may decide, however, the factors that may make it appropriate to revise the terms of audit engagement are what? All these. तो अगर change हो रहा है तब तो आपको भेजना ही है. Simple है. प्रकाश, योर डाउट विल बी रिजॉल्व. अभी वेट, ठीक है, इतना क्लियर है. तो अभी तक देखो SA 210 में हमने क्या किया है. अभी अब हमारे 2 टॉपिक्स आर लेफ्ट. नहीं 2 नहीं, ओनली 1 टॉपिक इज लेफ्ट. रुको, SA 210 में क्या किया है. वैसे स्टूडेंट्स, यू आर गुड लिसनर्स, बिकॉज व्हेन आई एम डिस्कसिंग विद यू एनी कॉन्सेप्ट ना, यहाँ पर कोई डिस्टर्बेंस नहीं होता डाउट का. एंड व्हेन आई आस्क यू फॉर डाउट्स, देन देयर इज रेन ऑफ डाउट्स, सो विच इज वेरी गुड. ठीक है, आई ऑल्सो फील मोटिवेटेड कि ठीक है और अच्छे से समझाना है, बिकॉज यू ऑल आर लिसनिंग टू मी विद कॉन्सेंट्रेशन. देखो स्कोप क्या पढ़ा हमने. ऐसे 210 क्या है, अग्रीइंग द टर्म्स ऑफ ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट. तो स्कोप क्या है, डील्स विद द ऑडिटर्स रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी इन अग्रीइंग द टर्म्स ऑफ ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट. ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है, एक्सेप्ट तभी करना है व्हेन द बेसिस ऑन विच ऑडिट इज परफॉर्म इज देयर. और वो कैसे पता चलेगा, एस्टैब्लिशिंग वेदर प्री कंडीशंस फॉर एन ऑडिट आर देयर. And how will auditor establish that? Auditor ही तो establish करेगा ना. He will see whether the applicable FRF is acceptable or not, and he'll obtain an agreement of management that it acknowledges, accepts and understand कि ये ही responsible है preparation के लिए financial statements का, internal control, provide information, additional information, unrestricted access. है ना. देखो establish कैसे करना है, उसका answer is contained here कि preconditions check करना है. ठीक है. Further, there should be common understanding that with respect to the contents of the agreement. ठीक है. Then we saw that if any limitation is imposed prior to the audit engagement, तो फिर accept थोड़ी ना करना. Auditor shall not accept unless required by law regulation. And what will be the terms? Writing में होना चाहिए, misunderstanding avoid हो जाएगी इससे. And it shall include what? Objective and scope of audit of financial statement, responsibilities of management and auditor, identify, like these are 2 separate points: responsibilities of auditor, responsibilities of management, identification of applicable FRF, and reference to expected reports, content of report. And one point which is given in your module, we have seen, if law and regulation specifies that these are the terms, these are management responsibility, these are auditor's responsibility, then need not write it again, but give a reference to such law and regulation कि यहाँ पे लिखा है and we have agreed to it. Recurring auditor में auditor will assess whether circumstances require to send a revised, or whether there is a need to remind the entity of the existing term. Otherwise, the auditor may decide not to send a new engagement letter every period. Very important for your true false, that it is mandatory to send a revised. नहीं, it is not mandatory, है ना. ट्रू फॉल्स के लिए आ सकता है. What are the factors which says that it is appropriate to revise? When there is an indication that entity misunderstands the objective and scope, when any revised or special terms are there, or when there has been a change in what? Senior management, ownership, nature, size, legal, regulatory requirement, adopted FRF and other reporting requirement. Clear? ठीक है. Yes, if there will be a change, any such change, है ना, कुछ भी चेंज है, then obviously we need to send the revised engagement letter. Now, what is the next topic? It is saying that suppose, see, limitation on scope prior to audit engagement. I have done this, है ना. If management dosage government is impose limitations such that auditor believes that it will lead to disclaiming कि auditor ही नहीं दे पाएगा, then he should not accept the limited engagement. देखो limited engagement का क्या मतलब है? Now he is not in a position to obtain reasonable assurance ना. देखो assurance किस level की होती है? एक तो होती है absolute, which is what? 100%. Then there is what? Reasonable, which is a high level but not 100%. And then there is limited, जो review के केस में हम देते हैं. ठीक है. सो लिमिटेड हो जाएगा ना ये. व्हाई? बिकॉज ऑडिटर परफॉर्म ही नहीं कर पा रहे हैं ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स. वो ही इज नॉट इन अ पोजीशन टू ऑब्टेन रीजनेबल, विच इज अ हाई लेवल, दो नॉट 100%. लिमिटेड इज वेरी लेस अश्योरेंस, है ना. तो इस केस में ऑडिटर विल नॉट एक्सेप्ट. ठीक है. नाउ एक्सेप्टेंस ऑफ अ चेंज इन engagement. So what happens is here, the auditor has accepted the engagement and he was doing the work. Now, before the completion of the engagement, the management requests the auditor that auditor, listen, please change the engagement. Please change the terms of the audit engagement to one which provides lower level of assurance. Now, whether to do that or not. देखो पहले वाले केस में तो क्या था? The auditor was in the process of deciding whether to accept or not. तो वहां पर तो हमने क्या बोल दिया, अगर limitation on scope है, do not accept it. ठीक है? That is the 14th paragraph of the book. 15th paragraph says that now you have accepted the engagement. You were working. Before the completion, the auditor has been asked, he has been requested to change the engagement to one which provides lower level of assurance. Matlab, lower level of assurance, it means, see, otherwise you were giving what? Reasonable assurance. Now, let's say management is saying that auditor, listen, the area where the inventory was kept, now in that area you cannot go. Why? Because there is a weather forecast that it will be hit by tsunami. Now tell me, will you still go to check the inventory? Tell me, will you still go? Or let's say you were conducting the audit, later on, in mid of the audit, the original documents of the company were taken by whom? By the income tax authorities. Okay? Now you have to work on the photocopies. Okay? So see, these are some reasonable justification. ना अब आप tsunami hit area में थोड़ी ना चले जाओगे inventory के लिए, या अगर if income tax authorities have taken the original copies after the engagement has been accepted but before the completion, so these are what reasonable justification है ना. So in this case, what is to be done? ठीक है, ठीक है. Now it says that, so समझ आ गया, क्योंकि the auditor is not able to obtain reasonable assurance. Why? Because अब वो आधा काम, he is not able to perform audit procedures on the inventory ना. He is not able to perform, he is not able to work on various documents which have been seized by the income tax department. तो reasonable assurance नहीं मिल रहा है, lower level of assurance मिल रहा है. क्यों? Because जितना कम काम होगा उतना कम assurance मिलेगा ना. तो इससे related there was a doubt also. I don't remember the name of the girl, but I hope now it is clear. Lower level of assurance कि आप reasonable से भी कम ले पा रहे हो. Why? Because you have reduced the work ना. ठीक है. Now a request from the client for the auditor to change the engagement may result from a change in circumstances, a misunderstanding as to nature of audit or related services originally requested, या restriction on the scope of the engagement कि अब आप inventory नहीं कर सकते हो, या यहाँ पर data available नहीं है आप originals. ठीक है. Now यहाँ पर क्या देखना है? Auditor will carefully consider the reason given by for the request. What is the reason? Particularly the implications of the restriction on scope of engagement, especially legal or contractual, कि आपका कितना scope आपका वो limit कर रहा है. See, अगर आप assurance obtain ही नहीं कर पा रहे हो, फिर थोड़ी ना आप continue करोगे. ठीक है. So if there is a reasonable justification and if the work performed complied with essays applicable to the changed engagement, what does it mean? It says that auditor will consider the reasons. And if auditor feels that the reasons are reasonable, these are the justification is what? Reasonable, bhai, genuine case hai. Plus, I am in a position to conduct the audit as per essays. जो essays का responsibility है, by performing other procedures, I am able to comply with that. Now, what will auditor do? He will enter into the revised terms of engagement. अब पुराने वाला भूल जाओ ना. पुराने वाला आप क्यों भूल जाओ? Because the reasons given are reasonable justification. The justification is reasonable. Plus, auditor is able to perform the audit as per standards. ठीक है? That is, though it might be certain lower level of assurance, but reasonable assurance तो मिल रहा है. And the report would not include a reference to original engagements or any procedures which are mentioned in original engagement. क्योंकि original तो अब नहीं है ना. Justification was reasonable. आप काम भी अच्छे से कर पा रहे हो, reasonable assurance भी मिल रहा है आपको, तो ठीक है. forget the original engagement and the procedures performed there, mention the new engagement and the new procedures performed in your audit report. ठीक है, but and अगर ऐसा कुछ होता है, then auditor shall agree on and record new terms of engagement in the engagement letter or other suitable form of written agreement. अब दोबारा से revised terms को तो mention करोगे ना, because it needs to be in writing. Clear? तो किसी का doubt था, I hope it is clear now. Now, let's say that the justification is not reasonable. Auditor को लगता है कि भाई I will not reduce my level of assurance, मेरे को तो काम करना है original engagement के accordingly. And the management is not allowing you to work as per the original engagement. आप नए वाले engagement के according you cannot work. पुराने engagement के according management work नहीं करने दे रहा, तो क्या करना है? Withdraw from the audit engagement where possible under applicable law and regulation. And और नहीं है and. देखो withdraw कर लो audit engagement से. And students, आगे ना you are going to study this topic in detail. देखो कोई भी काम बीच में छोड़ना, सी यू आर अ प्रोफेशनल, इतना इजी नहीं है कि आपने ऐसे विड्रॉ कर लिया. देयर आर ऑब्लिगेशन ऑन द पार्ट ऑफ द ऑडिटर, कंट्रैक्चुअल और अदरवाइज, टू रिपोर्ट द सर्कमस्टांसेस टू द अदर पार्टीज. सी इफ मैनेजमेंट हैज आस्क्ड यू दैट अब आप इन्वेंट्री नहीं चेक कर सकते हो एंड यू आर नॉट फाइंडिंग दैट जस्टिफिकेशन रीजनेबल, ठीक है, सो withdraw from the engagement अगर आपको लगता है that you cannot perform on the new terms, क्योंकि आपको reasonable assurance नहीं मिलेगा. Further, auditor needs to consider कि कोई obligation तो नहीं है, like those charged with governance को भी तो बता के जाओगे ना, शेयर होल्डर्स को भी तो बता के जाओगे ना, रेगुलेटर्स को भी तो बता के जाओगे ना, that this is the reason why I am resigning, why I am quitting, why I am withdrawing from the engagement. यार you are a professional, ऐसे थोड़ी ना आप काम बीच में छोड़ के चले जाओगे. So auditor needs to consider all those obligations also. For example, communicating with those charged with governance, owners or regulators. ठीक है, so let us just quickly have a look at the or do this as a homework. I'll do one thing, do this illustration as a homework. I'll be taking up your third chapter, है ना. तो अगर आपका still कोई doubt होता है तो I'll take up the doubt of chapter number 1 in that session. But अभी before ending for the session, let me just revise, let me just collect all the topics that we have done in essay 210, है ना. तो I hope that many of you were sending me a number of queries relating to revised terms कि कैसे करना है, बीच में काम छोड़ सकते हैं नहीं, अब वो clear होना चाहिए सबको, ठीक है. So now essay 210 कहाँ गया, wait, ठीक है. So be with me, अभी और doubts होंगे वो भी clear हो जाएंगे, ठीक है. तो देखो essay 210 क्या है, agreeing the terms of audit engagement. So auditor will accept if the engagement only if the premise on which the audit is conducted is present. Now how to establish, first of all, what preconditions should be there? Auditor should establish that preconditions are there and common understanding between the auditor and the management or those charged with governance should be there, ठीक है. Now, how to establish? Auditor will determine whether the FRF is acceptable or not, है ना, and obtain an agreement that management acknowledges and understand its responsibility for preparation of financial statement as per FRF, internal control as management considers necessary, and to provide with auditor all the information, access to all information, additional information, and unrestricted access to persons within the entity. ठीक है, अब रिवीजन हिंदी में कैसे करें स्टूडेंट्स, चलो ठीक है. तो हमने क्या बोला, ऑडिटर तभी एक्सेप्ट करेगा एंगेजमेंट जब उसको लगता है कि ये जो प्री कंडीशंस हैं, जो बेसिस है जिसके ऊपर ऑडिट होता है वो फुलफिल हुआ है, ठीक है. वो कैसे पता चलेगा, ऑडिटर पहले देखेगा एप्लीकेबल एफआरएफ के अकॉर्डिंग ही बने हैं ना फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट, वो एक्सेप्टेबल है ना. एंड ऑडिटर ये भी देखेगा कि मैनेजमेंट जो है वो एक्सेप्ट करता है और अंडरस्टैंड करता है कि इट इज द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ द मैनेजमेंट कि वो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट को एज पर एफआरएफ बनाए, इंटरनल कंट्रोल इंप्लीमेंट करें एंड ऑडिटर को सभी इंफॉर्मेशन दे, एडिशनल इंफॉर्मेशन दे, अनरिस्ट्रिक्टेड एक्सेस टू पर्संस दे विद इन द एंटिटी, ठीक है. नाउ इट शुड बी इन राइटिंग एंड ये जो एंगेजमेंट लेटर है ये ऑडिटर सेंड करता है टू द क्लाइंट, ठीक है. इससे क्या होगा, मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं होगी, ठीक है. पार्टनरशिप फर्म में क्यों करना है, टोल्ड यू दैट वहां पर कुछ राइटिंग में नहीं है ना, बिकॉज पार्टनरशिप फर्म, प्रोप्राइटरशिप फर्म में तो इट इज इन व्हाट, इट इज इन वॉलेंट्री, इट इज वॉलेंट्री, है ना, तो पार्टनरशिप अग्रीमेंट, जो पार्टनरशिप डीड होती है उसको कंसीडर करेगा ऑडिटर, ठीक है. यू कैन रीड इट फ्रॉम दिस पैराग्राफ. Now, what are the points? First of all, it should be in writing. Then, what is the objective? जो भी objective या scope of audit है वो mention करोगे. Responsibilities auditor की, responsibilities management की identify करोगे and mention करोगे what is the applicable FRF, and then reference to the expected form and the content of audit report. ठीक है. Recurring audit मतलब जो आप last year भी audit या आप next year भी audit हो, तो क्या ऑडिटर को बार बार सेंड करना है अग्रीमेंट फॉर टर्म्स ऑफ ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट? सो द आंसर इज नो. बट येस, अगर कोई सर्कमस्टांसेस हैं जिसमें ऑडिटर को लगता है कि रिवाइज भी करना है या रिमाइंड करना है एंटिटी को, तो ही नीड टू सेंड इट अगेन. नाउ व्हाट आर दोस सर्कमस्टांसेस? इफ देयर इज एन इंडिकेशन, लास्ट ईयर ऐसा कुछ हुआ था जहां ऑडिटर को लगा कि देखो मैनेजमेंट को तो समझ ही नहीं आया कि ऑब्जेक्टिव और स्कोप क्या है, तो रीसेंड इट. जहां एनी टर्म्स हैव बीन रिवाइज्ड एंड or special term has been introduced, or where there has been a change in senior management, change हुआ है, ownership change हुआ है, nature and size, law and regulation, reporting framework change हुआ है, या other reporting requirements. Why? Because देखो यहाँ पर scope ही change हो गया ना. अगर आप यहाँ से बात करो, scope change हो गया ना, तो फिर चेंज करना ही पड़ेगा ना. एंड यहाँ पर जो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज हैं उनको दोबारा से बताना पड़ेगा. सीनियर मैनेजमेंट चेंज हो गई तो अब उनको बताना पड़ेगा ना, सी यू आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल. सेम वे ओनरशिप बहुत ज्यादा चेंज हो गया, शेयर होल्डर्स पहले ज्यादा थे, अब आपके डिबेंचर्स ज्यादा गए, तो भी देयर विल बी अ नीड टू send a revised one. If there is a limitation on scope of prior to audit engagement acceptance, which would lead in disclaiming an opinion, कि auditor को ultimately auditor को ये बोलना पड़ेगा कि I disclaim this opinion, I am not giving any opinion because you are not allowing me to check the, in our example, inventory. तो क्या होगा? He should not accept limited. Limited मतलब अब assurance कम मिल रहा है ना, ठीक है. अब यहाँ नाउ 15 पॉइंट एक्सेप्टेंस ऑफ चेंज. देखो यहां पर भी एश्योरेंस कम मिलता, ठीक है, बट सिंस इट इज मेंशन्ड हियर दैट रीजनेबल जस्टिफिकेशन है प्लस एसेस के अकॉर्डिंग रीजनेबल एश्योरेंस मिल रहा है, देन ओनली द ऑडिटर विल एक्सेप्ट द request of change from the management, and in case of this auditor will enter into and record new terms of engagement. However, where auditor feels that he do not want to accept the new terms and management is not allowing the auditor to continue with the old one, then auditor will withdraw from the audit engagement where possible under law and regulation, and he shall consider his obligation with respect to like communicating with charge with governors, owners and regulators. ठीक है. So ठीक है. So I hope essay 210 is clear to all of you. So at the acceptance we have seen that if before completion of engagement auditor is requested to change the engagement to one which provides lower level of assurance, consider the appropriateness कि वो appropriate है या नहीं. What can be the reasons? Circumstances change हो गए, कुछ misunderstanding थी या restriction on scope है. Auditor to carefully consider the reasons. So justification है, and अगर आप ऐसे के according फिर भी perform कर पा रहे हो, then you need to consider to issue the report on the revised terms. In order to avoid any confusion, in your report, do not refer to regional engagement or procedures performed in a regional engagement, क्योंकि अब तो आपने agree कर लिया है. However, no reasonable justification, auditor should not agree. तो auditor क्या करें? If auditor should not, अच्छा ये वाला point is related to this, that if there has been a change, to enter into new terms. Now, if there is no reasonable justification, auditor is unable to agree, but he is not permitted by management to continue with the original audit engagement, withdraw from audit engagement wherever possible, and this is connected by and determine the obligation to report to other parties like those charged with governors, the regulators, and the owners. So with this, we have covered all our topics of chapter number 1 in detail. Students, a topic assertion is left. ठीक है. So assertion, I'll take this topic in detail in chapter number 3. ठीक है. 31st October को chapter number 3 की class है. In between you have 3 lectures for chapter number 2 with other faculty. ठीक है. तो assertion का अभी in a line just I'll tell you a meaning so that if it comes in this chapter you are able to understand it. See, assertion क्या है? Just listen to me carefully. See, if the management has building of 1 crore. Now, how will the management give this information to the users of the financial statement? Will the management pick up the mic and start announcing कि देखो मेरे our company is having a building of 1 crore? नहीं, ठीक है, यार purchases were 50 lakh, sales कैसे बताएगा management will represent or declare such information where in financial statements. So when the management is representing, declaring such information in financial statement, or I can say asserting such information in financial statement, such assertion is called what? Such declaration is called what? Assertion. So whatever information is given in financial statement, देखो बिल्डिंग अगर 1 crore की है, इससे क्या अज्यूम करोगे आप कि बिल्डिंग जो ये 1 crore की है, इट एक्चुअली एग्जिस्ट, इट इज ओन्ड बाय द कंपनी. The historical value is, after considering depreciation, is 1 crore. So these all are the assumptions now. Tabhi to management has mentioned it as building in the balance sheet. So the representations by the management, explicit or otherwise, expressly mentioned or implied, which are embodied in the financial statement. Embodied is what? Included in the financial statement. And all these assertions are used by the auditor to see whether there are possible misstatement. यही सब तो चेक करना है ना ऑडिटर को कि बिल्डिंग सच में एग्जिस्ट करती है नहीं, बिल्डिंग एक्चुअली मैनेजमेंट क्लाइंट ओन करता है नहीं, बिल्डिंग की वैल्यू करेक्ट आ रही है या नहीं. क्लियर? अभी के लिए बस इतना कि जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन मैनेजमेंट फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में मेंशन करता है, एक्सप्रेसली लिख के या इंप्लाई करके, अगर कंटिंजेंट लायबिलिटी नहीं आ रही, इट इंप्लाइज दैट देयर इज नो कंटिंजेंट लायबिलिटी, सो दैट इज व्हाट? एक्सप्रेस्ड, एक्सप्लिसिटली मेंशन्ड और अदरवाइज इंप्लाइड. ठीक है? एंड उसी को तो ऑडिटर विल बी चेकिंग इन ऑर्डर टू सी वेदर पोटेंशियल मिसस्टेटमेंट्स आर देयर और नॉट. सो दिस इज व्हाट assertion. और चैप्टर नंबर 3 में बहुत डिटेल में पढ़ने वाले हैं हम कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ assertion एंड इन फैक्ट इन चैप्टर नंबर 9 ऑल्सो. ठीक है? सो आई होप दैट चैप्टर नंबर 1, which is the foundation of this syllabus, whether it is clear or not. Let me just have a look at the doubts. Students, I wanted to discuss with you the MCQs. Let us do one thing. Just a minute. Let us just discuss the MCQs, है ना? So I have uploaded the answers also. So these are your quickly send in your replies for the first MCQ. Meanwhile, I'll have a look at the queries. So Alok, with respect to your doubt, ना, there is a concept of branch audit. है ना? चैप्टर 10 में अगेन हम वो डिस्कस करेंगे डिटेल. See, change in legal and regulatory requirement. Ayush, your doubt with respect to revising the terms. अब देखो VAT से GST पे आया है. Now the scope is going to change ना. अब तो बहुत ज्यादा काम करना पड़ेगा ना ऑडिटर को. So one of the examples can be that. ठीक है? और let's say some company is there with respect to the company is engaged in import and export. ठीक है? Now there has been a change in government policy, a drastic change in government policy on import and export policies of the country. So there will be a requirement of sending the revised term if the scope is increased now. If the work that you have to do will be more. Is it clear? यस सुधांशु, अभी हमने टॉपिक में किया ना कि अगर ऑडिटर को लगता है कि भाई मैं काम ही नहीं कर सकता हूँ ऐसी सिचुएशन में, सो ही कैन विड्रॉ फ्रॉम द एंगेजमेंट. बट यस, ऑडिटर को अपनी अदर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज लाइक कम्युनिकेटिंग विद दोज चार्ज विद गवर्नेंस, कम्युनिकेटिंग विद द रेगुलेटर्स, द ओनर्स, दैट ही विल हैव टू फुलफिल. So Ayushi, consider it as 10 CR or 20 CR. Krishna Shah, please repeat your doubt. I'm unable to understand it. Sudhanshu, I hope your doubt is clear. Krishna, please repeat your doubt. Yeah. So students, I hope you are able to understand. So let us have a look at MCQ1. The purpose of an audit is to enhance the degree of confidence of the intended users, which is correct. The audit engagement letter is sent by the client to the auditor, which is not correct. So the answer is what? Only statement 1 is correct. Okay? Is it clear? Now the second one. As per ISBA code, which of the following is one of the fundamental principles of professional ethics relevant to the auditor when conducting an audit of financial statement? So see, students, you might get confused. प्रोफेशनल जजमेंट ही हो सकता है आपको ठीक लगे. दो ऑडिटर नीड्स टू एक्सरसाइज प्रोफेशनल जजमेंट, बट आईएसबा कोड के अकॉर्डिंग कौन से 5 थे? इंटेग्रिटी, ऑब्जेक्टिविटी, प्रोफेशनल कॉम्पिटेंस एंड ड्यू केयर, है ना? एंड देन rest 2 were there, but these were not there. ठीक है? Yeah. So professional competence, professional behavior was there, and your confidentiality was there. But ये तो नहीं. So this is the one. So professional judgment भी ठीक लग सकता है आपको, professional intelligent quotient भी लग सकता है, professional performance भी लग सकता है. But which is the correct answer? For that you need to read the entire question. So many of you have answered correctly. Meanwhile, read the third point, and read the question also correctly. Which of the following is not correct? है ना? तो concentrate on these words also, not correct, with respect to scope of an audit of financial statement. The audit should be organized to cover adequately all aspects of the enterprise related to the financial statement when audited. This is correct. Informing his opinion, the auditor should also decide whether, which this statement is also correct. The auditor is expected to perform duties which fall outside the scope of his competence. This is not correct. Rohit, where are you getting confused? Send in your reply. So the answer to third is C, which you all have absolutely answered correctly. And constraints on the scope of audit that impair the auditor's ability to express an unqualified opinion should be set out in his report, which is also correct. So the answer is C. Why? Because it is mentioned here, not correct. Read the fourth question. Dash requires an auditor to be straightforward, honest in all professional and business relationship. Is it confidentiality? Is it professional competence, integrity, or independence? Send in your replies. So this is basically referring to the definition of the term integrity. Okay. Fifth, standards on auditing apply in audit of historical financial information. है ना? ये तो ठीक लग रहा है. Standards on review engagements apply in assurance engagement dealing with subject matter other than historical financial information. This is not correct. So the answer is what? Only statement 1 is correct. Okay. So I hope you all are clear. है ना? So students, I have mentioned, see, look at this. I have mentioned the answer to descriptive questions, MCQs, so we have discussed, and the answers to case scenario. But now, since we are short of time, I'm not in a position to discuss all these questions. But yes, as I've told you, as in when we will meet for chapter number 3, I'll definitely take up all your doubts in case you have with respect to this chapter. So students, I hope that this chapter is clear. Still, you have any doubt, quickly send in. A last 1 or 2 doubt I'll take, then I'll end the session. Yes, Mr. Joshi, we will definitely discuss in the sessions to come as to how to write the answers of descriptive type. Okay. So abhi to it in the next session, in the next chapter, I'll definitely discuss. And Subhiksha, with respect to definition of assertion, I've told you that for the purpose of this chapter, though I wanted to discuss this definition in detail, but since the time is not permitting, so in chapter number 3, I'll definitely discuss this definition in detail because it is in detail there. But for the purpose of this chapter, just try to understand that whatever information the management has given in the financial statement is assertion. Assertion is representation. So management is declaring that the building is there of, let's say, historical value 1 crore. The building is there which actually exists, which is owned. Which is owned by the company, is it mentioned somewhere? No. So it is implied. If no contingent liability is mentioned, so nothing is mentioned now. So it is implied that there is no contingent liability. Okay? So for all those who are asking me, ma'am, explicit. देखो explicit का क्या मतलब होता है? Explicit or otherwise. So explicit means expressly mentioned, jahan expressly it has been mentioned. Otherwise matlab iska opposite of explicit, which is implied. ठीक है? Clear? So students, I hope this chapter is clear. Prakash, please refer to the video, है ना? ISBA code. Repeating it will take another 15-20 minutes. So ISBA code. Basically, it says that with respect to the audit of the audit firms, they need to meet the ethical requirements. That the team that is going to conduct an audit, there should be integrity, there should be objectivity, confidentiality, professional behavior, professional competence and due care. और वो कहाँ लिखा है? ISBA code में. And then we studied that unless and until independence is there, ये सब नहीं हो सकता. And with that, we studied independence of mind and in appearance. And then the threats and safeguard. Okay? Assertions in detail in the next session, Ayush. Okay? So, abhi we are discussing statutory audit. Internal audit ke liye there are separate standards on internal audit which are not in your syllabus. Okay? So, I hope it is clear. So, students, please send in a reply whether you have understood the chapter. The topic assertion I'll discuss in detail in chapter number 3. Okay? For the purpose of this chapter, the information that you needed, the discussion that was required, I have given to you. Please send in a reply whether everything is clear or not. And in case there is any doubt, you can always send in a reply at the beginning of the session. First session for chapter number 3, I'll definitely take up all your doubts. Okay? So students, thank you for being a patient listener. Just a minute. Thank you for making these sessions interactive, and please go through the module, send in all your queries in the next sessions to come, and see you for chapter number 3. Meanwhile, you will be having 3 sessions on chapter number 2 with other faculty. So thank you and good night.